You're listening to Zen and the Art of Endurance, your podcast for getting great at going long.
Well, hey there, all you ZenEndurance studs and studettes. This is Coach Brett with another great episode of Zen and the Art of Endurance, the podcast where we go long and learn a lot about ourselves along the way. This is going to be another great episode. We have an interview with Jan Van Smirren, who tells us what it was like trying to record heart rate in the 90s by hand and writing it down into spreadsheets and the different ways he trained for things like Ironmans and even swimming the English Channel. It's a really cool conversation, seeing where we've come from and how far we've made it with the gear today in comparison, and really gives us some perspective on what we're doing out there. But before that, we're going to talk about some news and gear that is coming our way, some racing news, and then finish it up with a nice dose of the training log, where I take you with me on all the escapades of what it's like being a triathlete and training all over the place. And we'll start off, I believe, with me pulling Emily around behind me on her bike using a retractable leash and out riding in the countryside and stopping to feed donkeys. And it just gets even crazier from there. And there's also a lot about using the swim form goggles. And I now have live heart rate in them, and it's amazing. So a lot of that's in the training log. And we'll get to that after the interview. But first, let's start off with some endurance news. Here we go. We have Ironman Texas coming this weekend. I'm recording right now, the day before, which I actually find kind of fun, that you're probably listening to this after the race is, after or during the race is occurring. And I have no idea how it's going to go, and you do. But I've also found that I like for a race to happen before I talk about it too much, because so much happens after the race. And then there's actually quite a few days to a week of where you start to find out all the details, behind the scenes kind of stuff that makes the race make more sense about what went down. And then I'll actually do like a full report on a race. But anyway, Ironman Texas is this weekend. It looks like it's going to be pretty hot, definitely humid. And looking at the race lineup, on the women's side, I would say most likely Jocelyn McCauley's going to win. She's won it before. It's her hometown. She's a friend of the show. She's a top contender at World Championships in Kona. So I give her the odds. And then on the men's side, it's really hard to tell. It looks like a mixed bag. So just for fun, let's pick Joe Skipper. And stay tuned for next episode where we find out how it actually went. Also, the T100 series went down, I think, in Singapore. And it looks like those distances are about a half Ironman. And Sam Long got second. And that's notable because he's doing really well in a lot of races. He just barely lost out to Lionel Sanders recently at Oceanside. So he's showing some strong form. And notable on the women's side is that Lucy Charles, the reigning Ironman champion, got beat by Ashley Gentle. Ashley Gentle's out of Australia, and I believe she's going to the Olympics. So she is on point. So apparently it made for some really great racing. And it's a competitor of sorts to Ironman, which is always interesting to get more players in the game so we don't get kind of a monopoly of the sport by one brand. And then in the purely biking area, we had Sea Otter go down, the Sea Otter Classic, which is near Monterey, California. And this was the kickoff race for the Lifetime Grand Prix, which is the off-road gravel/mountain biking, bike racing that is the biggest bicycle racing in North America. And last year's champions won Keegan Swinson and Sofia Gomez Villafane. I have trouble saying her last name. They're actually boyfriend-girlfriend. And it's no surprise that they won. And Alexi Vermillion got second in the men's. And he's the guy that trains and walks around the expo area with a wiener dog on his back. It's really funny, really cute. But anyway, the race went down really well and conditions were great. Seemed like everybody had a good time. But it's not just one race. It is a whole bunch of races of all different kinds. And also it is kind of probably one of the biggest bike expos. It's where all the new gear for the year in America gets showed off at first. And an interesting piece of gear broke cover, and I think it's made by Cane Creek, and they've labeled it the world's first gravel fork. And it's like, well, not exactly. That's the big joke. It's like people have been using mountain bike forks or other kinds of suspension, the Lauf suspension fork as a gravel fork. My original gravel bike, I had a very much commuter grade, super cheap, like just a couple $100, mountain bike, quote unquote, suspension fork, barely on the front of that thing. And that thing actually worked really great. So what makes this gravel fork interesting is that it's inverted, where the wheel gets pushed up into the fork instead of the fork pushing down into the wheel. You got to go check it out. What I'm not a real big fan of is how much they're charging for a extremely basic and short travel suspension fork. It's well over $1,000. It's kind of like it has half the travel and half the pieces. It doesn't have dampening, I think, as a mountain bike fork, which costs $1,000. So why does it cost the same or even more than a mountain bike fork? But anyway, yeah, it's a new product. That's what they do. Trek released their own version of the rear radar, of Garmin's Vario rear radar. It's got the best name. It's called Carback. And they claim that it can see farther, although I saw one test where they said it was the same, but it's like almost double the distance of the Vario to warn you that cars are coming. Now, what's actually definitely good about it is it's a slightly different form factor, where instead of being elongated, it's actually shorter and more square. And for some people, that might work better with their saddlebag situation and the rear of their bike situation. It's also got a claimed little bit narrower field, so it won't give false positives for cars that are running a road parallel to you that aren't actually on your road. That's a big problem I have that this would solve, where I ride down the side road next to the freeway and mine just goes off constantly about the cars on the freeway, and I have to twist mine on my seat post and not point straight back when I'm riding on that section of road. And it's annoying. So that's interesting. There's a claim that it's better also because it's USB-C instead of micro USB, but actually the latest versions of the Garmin Vario radar are also USB-C. So that's not actually a thing, just so you know. On some more gear news that's fun is I actually just got a Garmin 840. And even though it's my first, it's also my third at the same time. Kai had one for his senior year of racing, which is really competitive, and they need really high-end gear. And we got him one, and then it got left on the bumper of our car on the border of Oklahoma. And then we didn't realize it till we were almost all the way back to 5 hours away to our house in Central Texas. And then when we did the locate, tried to find it, nobody could find it in the field. It still happened to be back at the race area. And I'm sure somebody picked it up and kept it. And so it was gone. So then we ordered Kai a second because it is fantastic and it shows the radar really well, coming up behind you. So it's both a training thing and a safety thing. And yeah, so that was the second one that we ordered. And that went to Kai and not to me. And then if you're new to the show, I've been talking about Kai a ton lately because he's going pro, mountain bike racing and racing collegiate. And he's my 19-year-old son that has been on this podcast since he was a baby. I've got a picture of me recording some of the very first podcasts while I'm wearing a baby Bjorn with him in the front of it with me with a headset on. He's the reason for the season and a lot of why this show gets done. So we can talk about him. I've also got on reserve, because they're back ordered, power meter pedals for the both of us. He has never trained with power except on his indoor trainer. And I train with power forever, but my gravel bike does not have a power meter. So what we're going to do is get the power meter pedals. Asiomo makes the best power meter pedals, and they recently came out with the off-road version, which would be perfect for gravel and mountain biking, which we both do a lot of. And my triathlon bike already has a power meter in the rear hub. I have an old Power Tap. So when that shows up, that'll be a lot of fun in future shows, talking about how useful it is and swapping it between bikes. And I'm really looking forward to my bike rides actually showing power, being able to train with power again when I do long gravel rides, because I spent forever learning and knowing and coaching people on how to train with power. And I just haven't been riding with it for years because we've been spending money on other things like racing gear for Kai. And so this will be really cool. I've noticed something that bothers me is when I post my rides on Strava, there's probably a way around this. I just haven't looked into it enough, but it'll post the power of what it thinks my power was. Well, gravel is so much slower than riding the road, and it thinks that I'm putting out 100 watts on a ride where I'm really doing 200. And I don't have the ego trip where that really matters, obviously, because I've been doing this for several years and just 5 years maybe. And like, who cares that much? But it'll be nice to have that back where the power meters are actually accurate on my gravel rides. But anyway, and they're back ordered like 30 days, maybe 20 days by now. So they may not come by the next episode, which will be a real bummer because we're about to ride gravel locos. I hope they'll show up before then, but I also don't think that that's going to happen. And it takes a while to break in gear for you to know how to use it all. And that's why I went ahead and ordered the Garmin 840 for me now, because it's such an upgrade from the 520 that I used to ride with that I'm trying to relearn all this stuff and where all the buttons are. And like, I don't even know where the auto pause setting is on there. And like, it's not showing where trails are on the map, but it's a huge improvement. So again, we're going to have in future shows going over how to use the Garmin 840, because that's a really popular bike computer. How to use it for triathlon training, all the screen setup that I got and power and all that stuff. And with the power meter, how to use that for triathlon and gravel bike racing and mountain bike racing, because that's something that we're all really interested in. So lots of really cool content coming up. And another item on the race scene is we are going to go do Gravel Locos, which is 157 miles, about 50-50 gravel mix, a couple hours maybe west of Waco. And it's beautiful. And one reason we picked that race is because it is one that doesn't turn to mud, at least not too much, if it rains before the race. And the scenery is unbelievable. And it's kind of like a warm-up to Unbound. A lot of pros come and do it because it's really long. It's close to that 200-mile distance. And like I said about the terrain, if it rains, pretty much you're guaranteed that it's going to be a pretty good race. And it's a big competitive field. And it's close by to us. And if you're a fan of the show or know somebody that is, let them know. We are going 2 days ahead of time. And we are bringing our RV. So we will have a mobile studio set up. If you want to come by and say, hey, let me know. You can find me on Instagram, Zen Triathlon on Instagram. Send me a message or Texafornia at Gmail. And we can do an interview with you. If you're a pro and you want to get on the show, let me know and we can do an interview with you. And we're like really excited. Kai's going to race it. I'm going to race it. Kai's girlfriend and my wife, Emily, are going to be there to support. And we're just making a big 4-day weekend out of this thing. It's going to be so cool. And funny enough, I've got this itch to wear my aero helmet. I have a Giro Advantage 2 aero helmet that I could wear at this race. And if you remember, I asked Chase Wark, one of the fastest guys in this racing scene, if he would wear a full-on aero helmet. And he said, yeah, he might. And so I'm like, man, I feel like I almost need somebody to dare me, to bet me not to do it, for me to do it. That's the kind of edge that I'm on right now. Like if somebody goes, I'll give you $100 to wear that stupid thing, then I might go, I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And that way when I get teased and made fun of, I'll be like, well, I made $100, so that'll be worth it. Bought the family dinner by wearing this stupid thing. And that'll make being harassed and teased, worth it. But you're talking about, Kai did it last year, just over 9 hours. It took me 11 and a half hours almost to do it last year. And it's 157 miles, and it's only half gravel, I think. So it's definitely an opportunity to wear an aero helmet. We ride it with aero bars. A lot of people do. So why not wear a full-on triathlon aero helmet? I don't know. But anyway, that's an upcoming show, and we are fully registered. And I forgot what the date is. It's like May 18th or something. So maybe the next episode, we'll have an episode between now and then, and we'll talk about training for it and how I'm setting up the bikes and such. So that'll be a lot of fun. And then, we're going to hit that race, and that's going to be awesome. So I'm super excited about that. And just as a side note, if you're enjoying the news and the training log and the interviews, don't forget that you can help support Zen and the Art of Endurance by our Patreon site. We have ways in there for you to sign up to be a monthly supporter for like $5 a month. And also if you want to sign up as a sponsor or run advertisements on the show, you can sign up there as well. And a way to find that is if you go to patreon.com/zentry. Real nice and easy. Oh, and that reminds me, Form, the swimming goggle company, is so happy. And so many people have been asking me, and I've been passing it on to them about the heart rate that I've been showing in my goggles, live heart rate and how well it's working, if they can get a discount code out to our listeners. And they said, yeah, so the newer goggles are so new and selling so well, they don't want to put those on sale. They're asking full price for that, obviously. But the older goggles, which you can get the heart rate add-on separately if you want, and that's what I have, is they're called the version 1. And you can get 10% off of those with discount code ZenTry, all caps. And then I guess the last piece of news that's kind of a bummer is we've had a couple of bike companies fold up shop quite abruptly. Stages is one of the first power meter companies that put the power meter on the crank, or was it the left crank arm. They apparently just laid off their entire staff. And then Kona, which has been a long-running mountain bike and gravel bike and off-road bike company, set up shop at Sea Otter and then immediately broke it all down and then left. And it looks like the company is going under, which is a symptom of what the downturn in the bike market. What happened was during the pandemic, everybody was selling bikes, everything blew up. So it was kind of the whole industry was kind of overinflated. And then now companies that kind of stretched themselves out too thin during all that, or didn't negotiate those rough waters as best they could, or were just unlucky. Now they're suffering during the downturn when times get hard, because apparently there's plenty of bike companies that are doing fine, but some of them are really struggling. This seems to be two of them. So that's a big bummer, but maybe we'll see them come back. I saw that Haro, which was one of my 80s BMX bike favorites, was making a gravel bike, which is kind of cool. But all right, that's enough news. Let's go ahead and get to our interview. The scene here is we were at Texas State watching collegiate racing. All the major universities in Texas were having time trial, crit racing, and then a road race. And Kai races for Texas State, and he's just a freshman. But the senior, that's the president of the bike club for Texas State, his dad was there, and he and I started talking, and I started finding out all this crazy information about him. As we were at a barbecue restaurant, which you can tell in the interview, after everything was over, to celebrate the racing. And his name's Jan Van Smirren, and he actually bought the whole team barbecue lunch after all the racing was over on Sunday to celebrate. And when I started finding out about this guy's history, I said, hey, do you got a moment? Let's go over here and interview real quick. And he said, yeah, absolutely. And I was really interested in the old ways that we used to record information for metrics and performance. And I mean, he's just a few years older than me, so I can totally relate. And a lot of us listening to the show can totally relate what we were doing back then. And now how everything has totally changed. So it's a great interview, and it's not too long. So stick around, because afterwards we go straight into the training log, which is awesome as well. Here we go. All right, we are at the barbecue joint after the road racing, and I'm here with Jan Van Smirren. Yeah, I got it right?
Yeah, you did.
I told you I had a friend named Jan. We called him Jan because, but Jan. And you said that, well, your son is he team captain of the team?
Of the club.
President of the club, of the San Marcos Cycling Club. But we started talking, and you said that you used to do Ironmans, and you did Ironman Texas back in maybe 2007
maybe.
And then, but the thing that really piqued my interest was you said that because I started out recording with distance and stuff right about the time that Garmin came out with its first Forerunner, the giant hockey puck looking GPS device. But I used to talk to Maffetone, Dr. Maffetone, who coached Mark Allen.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
I interviewed Mark Allen's coach twice. And that turned him into a guy that could finally beat, who's the guy? Dave Scott, right?
Yeah.
And it was all about heart rate.
Yeah.
So I know a little bit about like the old heart rate devices and stuff that people used to use, but you said that you used to record all your heart rate data, all your metrics of all kinds that you could, all the way back to like
1996, yeah.
So, and I asked, you have them written down somewhere, so like how did you record that, and what is it in?
I recorded it in a spreadsheet.
Okay.
I think it was
Lotus 1, 2, 3.
Lotus 1, 2, 3, probably. Yeah, one of those. When there was more than one available spreadsheet. So yeah, I just did it for fun. I mean, I'm a scientist, and most of my scientific work has been in data analytics, right back to kind of.
Yeah, me too. I work in the science field. I do IT, and my degree has to do with analytics. And, so I just love this stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, I just played with the data all the time, and so the reason I've got all the records going back is because about 97. I got sideswiped by a car.
Okay.
And then I took him to court, and there was the pain and suffering, but there was a loss of lifestyle. So I had to print out all my training records for the court case, and they were submitted into the record. And then 98, I moved to Houston. From this was in Singapore, and I moved to Houston. And when I moved to Houston, I had a zip disk, maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
I had a zip disk, and it got corrupted, and so I actually lost everything. But for years, I started recording again, starting from scratch, as it were. And then I remembered that it had been produced in the court case.
Oh, so you got it from public records somehow.
So I called my lawyer in Singapore, who still had the records.
Yeah.
And she faxed them over to me.
Yeah.
And so that's how I...
So would you record like your high and low? How would you get an average? Or what device were you using to record your heart rate?
I was doing it manually to start with. And then we got...
So like your finger against your neck, you're like getting pulse and just writing it down?
Yeah, because there was I'm trying to think... There was I read books about Mark Allen and all those kind of guys, and I kind of knew that it was important. And I got a Polar as soon as they came out, because they were probably the first ones on the market.
Polar is really good.
Yeah,
they started off with.
Yeah, it's still pretty good actually, I think. And so I had the Polar, but then this was pre-maps on the internet, so I used to kind of measure things out with a kind of...
Yeah. So what I do for a day job is I work with maps. Okay. I do GIS, Geographic Information Systems, but part of my career was doing big data analytics with that. So I just love like planning out bike routes and looking at all my old data. I do coaching too.
Yeah.
And so I look at, like, say if you were to go start training, I would overlay your GPS route on the map, and then I would look at the elevation profiles and the wind direction, and then I would say that's why your heart rate's so high, or your heart rate's too high for what you're doing right here. So let's look at like caffeine, sugar, or it's too low or something. And so the all the metrics now make it like way easier.
Yeah, I mean, we're overwhelmed now with the amount of it. I mean,
it's which metrics work.
I have Strava, and but I still keep my spreadsheet as my primary source. And
really?
Because Strava's not always a good way of recording things, and sometimes I forget to charge my phone or my...
if they ever go under, you're gonna have to, if they ever go out of business, there's going to be this panic, everybody going to mass download their data.
And I've had that where I was on another site previously that went bust. And I tried to get my data back from them, and because I had more data, they had more data than I had in my records, because my records were just like date, hours, minutes, seconds, distance units, maximum heart rate, average heart rate, and weight, and then notes.
So did you have targets for like a week, or like weekly mileage, or?
I had a job that really prevented me from really focusing on training as much, and I also had children and all that, all those kind of things. So I just set a target of exercise that I would do a year, and it's not a target. Right. It's just what I have to do each year. So I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And I commit to consciously making a decision to exercise for a day. an hour a day.
Yeah, me too.
So like, if I'm running out of time and I'm not going to have time to do this, if I say, okay, instead of driving to the store, I'm going to walk to the store, which is, and walk home, then that qualifies because it's conscious decision to do it.
Right.
But if I happen to be walking around an exhibition, then it doesn't count. So just that conscious decision part's really important. So I just try to do an hour a day.
Yeah, I do an hour or more a day, but definitely an hour, and I feel like that comes first, and then everything else has to revolve around that, because if you're not healthy, then you won't be able to do anything.
Yeah.
So but like today, I haven't done anything, but we'll see, because.
It's really true, isn't it? I mean, I used to, children growing up and everything like that. It always was, it was a selfish thing. You thought it was a selfish thing to be doing, but actually, if you've got growing up children and you want to be around when they flourish,
it's one setting the example.
To be doing the
it's setting the example for them too. The reason Kai and your son too, they're all into cycling is because of what you and I've done. And then
100%.
And then also, we get to be here. Hopefully, we get to live a whole lot longer.
A little bit. Yeah. Actually, I was just
you just never know, though.
I was just listening to a podcast, David Attia or something like that. Attia, and he, it just completely by coincidence, is like, your VO2 max
is your longest indicator
of your longevity. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. So
You can smoke, you can drink. Yeah. You can, but if you've got a good VO2 max, you're okay. It's like, cool.
He said that, really? That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it's. I think he's trying to make it really positive, but I can see the kind of negative connotations of that. Beer's good for you.
You grew up as a swimmer in Denmark, or
no, in the UK.
In the UK,
yeah. I mean, I grew up as a rugby player, and then I played it. Quite a high level, but when I was about 19 years old, I got really badly injured.
You won't believe it. This is the craziest thing. I interviewed a guy, maybe from Sweden. I feel like he was from Scandinavia somewhere, who swam the English Channel all butterfly.
Wow.
Just imagine that.
Yeah.
It blew my mind. That has got to be one of the hardest feats. And that's something that hardly anybody knows about,
I've been on a relay team to swim the English Channel. We never did it because we never got a weather window.
It's true. It's the weather's so
we just
crazy.
Basically stayed down on the south coast of the UK for 2 weeks, just waiting for the weather to break.
Man. Well,
and we trained for a year. And I'll tell you a funny story. Just to do to swim in the English Channel in the official race. We were in a relay team. You had to do a 2-hour swim. I think it was a 2 or 3 hour swim, and it had to be in water that was less than 55 degrees. Right. So I live in Texas, and I left it too late, and so there was no way you could do a swim that would qualify. So I conned my family into going up to Colorado for a summer holiday.
Yeah.
Not really conned, but we went, and I did the swim in a lake in just. I'm trying to think what the name.
It was like Broomfield. I'm trying to remember.
It's near Leadville. Turquoise Lake.
Near Leadville?
Yeah, we were camping in Leadville, so I did it in this. I think it was called Turquoise Lake.
That is crazy high altitude.
I know. I mean, I just didn't, But I thought it would be fine. But the only, when you swim in the English Channel, you're only allowed to wear Speedos.
Right. Yep.
So it's and goggles. Yeah. So I went up and I swam.
They call it English Channel rules. No matter where you swim, there's this thing called English Channel rules.
Yeah. So I went to the park headquarters, and I said, look, here's this form. If I go swimming. And do complete the 2-hour swim? Will you sign off on this form? And she's like, yeah, sure. I'm like, that'll be official enough for them. Get a park ranger to sign off. So I went and did the swim, and when I got in the water, it was so cold. Yeah. And then about halfway through the swim, the wind started blowing off the mountains across the lake. So actually, it was so cold. The wind was so cold that I had to stop swimming freestyle. because my arms.
You like breaststroke and keep most of your body underwater.
Keep everything under the water.
Yeah.
And I did it. I did the 2 hours, and I swam back to the shore. And as I swam into because there's a little kind of like a beach there. As I swam back into the shore, the water started warming up.
Oh, you could have been closer to shore.
Yeah, I was like, well, I couldn't have swum closer to the shore, but I was like, geez, I really. It was. I think when I measured the temperature at the shore, it's like 52.
Yeah, that's really, really cold for people that don't do cold water swimming. That's really cold.
It was warm.
Yeah.
And I got hypothermia.
Yeah. I used to surf a lot in off of Galveston, and in December the water gets down in the low 50s, and I know like instant ice cream headache. If you get a wave over the head, you're wearing wetsuits and stuff, but like, wave over the head. And I noticed that's the breaking point of just once it gets below about 60 degrees, it's brutally cold, like very, very cold. And then I swam Alcatraz. I did Alcatraz triathlon. And then I did a swim in Lake Tahoe too. So really, really cold.
Lake Tahoe's super cold as well. Yeah. So I seem to get myself into trouble whenever I do any endurance.
So what were you doing? Were you on a motorcycle today?
No, I was just following the race. C group.
Okay.
Following in the car.
Okay.
Just in case. So the same as I did last year. And I'm supporting Joe. That's kind of what.
That's fun, isn't it?
But also meeting lots of cool kids and parents, and everything like that. Some become long-term friends now, I guess. Or 2 or 3 years have been friends.
Yeah, maybe you and me. Nice to meet you, Jan.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Yeah.
We're doing a handshake right here for those that can't see.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Yeah, cool, awesome. All right. Thank you, Jan. Yeah, my story on my own friend named Jan. I had a friend that was named Jan in college. We still keep in touch on occasion. Really great guy. And after knowing him for like a year, it came up. He said, actually, my name's Jan. Everybody pronounces it Jan. And he's not Puerto Rico. He was from the Dominican Republic. And I was like, really? And I never thought too much about him being named Jan, which is typically a girl's name in the United States, because I've had 2 friends that had girls' names growing up or in college that were badass. So kind of the boy named Sue kind of syndrome maybe. And now, you follow like global cycling. A lot of guys are named Jan. You find out. I think it's probably some version of John, actually. Anyway, thanks again, Jan. And thank you to your son for being such a great president of the cycling team, and for making such a great positive environment for everybody on the team. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the training log. I've got notes here. We talk about green smoothies. We start off with pulling Emily behind me and feeding a donkey real quick. But my ingredients for a green smoothie, and more fiber through cereal, certain brand of cereal. A lot about swimming with live heart rate showing in the head-up display inside of Form goggles. Super cool. It's really changed the way I'm doing a lot of my other training. Can't recommend it enough. Start getting a little bit into biking with lower cadence on purpose. A few tips on how to make yourself more aero on the bike. A little bit about riding single speed. And something that didn't make it into the training log was I got a VIP pass to the MS 150, which actually I'll talk about at the very, very, very end of the show. Okay, let's go ahead and get started into the training log. Let's have some fun, and here we go.
Hi everybody, my name's Brett. I'm a triathlete.
I decided it's time I got some friends more suited to my status.
But Joe, we've been friends for years.
Hey, we all make mistakes. Come on, dudes, let's go exercise! Exercise! Yeah! I'm gonna do sit-ups till I poop myself!
All right, we did it?
Mm-hmm. The third ride?
Yeah, where I tow you?
Yeah.
What is it?
My B-bike.
Instead of an e-bike?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, we went on a different course, and it was awesome. Got to feed the donkey.
Yeah, there's a video up on Instagram.
Mm-hmm. And saw lots of the Oreo cows and lots of horses. And
you petted a horse, and the landowner was out there, so then we ran away.
Yeah, okay. And but it was really pretty, all the houses and everything out there. Even though I rode part of that before, I didn't remember. I remember parts of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Yeah,
it really makes the rest of the day and then the next day like so nice to have ridden out in the countryside like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like I accomplished something instead of being in the car all day.
Yeah. You taught me how to feed a donkey better.
I can't believe you're feeding him the other way. Have I not taught you nothing? Anything?
What? Have you not taught me nothing? I don't know how to answer that.
Have I not taught you anything?
I don't know. You got me confused now.
Pretty woman line from that's fine.
Oh, okay. Oh, we went by the house that Julie Roberts used to live in.
Well, you didn't point
Speaking
it
of
out.
pretty woman.
You didn't.
So Lyle Lovett has a house here in Bryan College Station, and he was married for a few years to Julia Roberts, and they lived on that route we just rode.
I always forget about that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to go in and enjoy a recovery drink.
Yep, me too.
You want a kiss?
As you snort your...
Mwah.
Ugh.
Okay. Let's go. Good job. That's partially to myself, too. Nothing. I said good job, but that's also to myself. Yeah. I'm such in the habit of working with kids and stuff and coaching. I tell Emily good job like she's a 14-year-old. Good job. All right. Oh my God, dude, I'm dying. My legs were destroyed. We went way slower than usual because like I ran at lunch and my legs were blasted. I wasn't sure if Emily was going to want to be able to run tonight. It's not if she wants to ride. It's if she can. And if she can, so many nights she can't, that when she can, just jump on it. And I have to suck it up. That's what I've decided. I'm going to suck it up and we're going to get it done. And we did. So even though I really should not, if I was on a regular training plan and training smart, I would not have ridden tonight. So I swam today. I ran and I was destroyed. I biked and I was destroyed. So tomorrow is a day off, if not more than that. All right. That's what I wanted to get off my chest about. Okay. God dang, it is hot. Let's go inside. All right, leaving the pool. Oh my gosh. Heart rate swimming live is a game changer. I barely even know where to begin with how different it is for the better. I can only think of one downside. I'll get to that in a little bit. It's minor. Loading stuff in the back of the truck. The long crews know that I'm recording a podcast, so they decided to fire everything up. Oh, I'm going to put this drink in my little cooler. I've got a cooler in the back of my truck. It's not powered, which is a thing people do nowadays. Okay, how do I describe this? It made swimming so much more relaxed, but relaxed through confidence. It's the only thing I can put my finger on of why it was so much more relaxed, because I knew that the effort that I was doing was the appropriate effort. So I start swimming with it. I'll get into like the setup and everything in a minute, but I start swimming with it and I notice it takes like a little bit of lag, like 100, 150 yards for it really for your body. It's reading your heart rate, live, but for your body to start raising its heart rate. One thing that was crazy is I put them on right before I got into the pool, and it shows heart rate like live immediately. The menu interface is fantastic how they've done it. They've thought of so many things to do well and intuitively and without extra steps. So it's showing my heart rate, and like one thing is it shows the battery life, and you have to press a button to get through it to start swimming, which is nice. You know the battery life. And I also figured out for an hour swim, it kills about 20% of the battery. So what, you could probably get like 5 swims out of it before needing to charge. Anyway, just getting into the water, my heart rate jumped 20 beats, nearly 20 beats, because the water was cold. And then if you've ever done any kind of meditation with heart rate and try to calm yourself down and breathe, you can train yourself to bring your heart rate down. Well, you need heart rate to train yourself to do it. And so I was practicing like calming down and being cool and whatever. My heart rate started going back down again, which is so handy if you're about to start a race. And these things are race certified. You can use them in races. It can help you be calm before the race or realize that you're really overexcited. I think that's kind of smart to get a heart rate baseline before you even start, because caffeine and dehydration can affect your heart rate baseline. So I'm swimming along, and I've been swimming forever with like a year or so with the regular form goggles with time and distance and pace, but not heart rate. And so I'm used to looking at those numbers. So I'm kind of looking at those numbers. But what's so cool is heart rate is live all the time, and a smaller number up to the top right of the head-up display in your goggles. And instead of waiting for a flip turn or the end of a set, you can see what your heart rate is like right now. And I was watching it kind of climb a little bit, but I was still paying attention to I was doing 5 800s with a 2-minute rest in between. And I start swimming. Yeah, the heart rate's climbing just a little bit, but I noticed that my heart rate is in the low 120s. And for me, zone 2 is like 120 to 130, let's say. The older you get and the more aerobic working out you get, the lower your zone 2 gets. The more in shape you get. And so I'm swimming along, and I notice that it starts to climb a little bit up to high 120s and then into the low 130s. And I thought, wait, this is a warm-up, just chill, right? And I can go hard at the very end, was kind of my plan. And so I backed off the pace, and after a while, I started to realize, set after set, that I would get lost in time, and time just kind of flew by. And I was swimming by time and by effort now, instead of by distance and pace. And that's so much smarter, because you're actually training your body instead of training the pool or your stopwatch. And then what I do is the first, third, and fifth sets of these 800s, I swim with a pool buoy to practice like really good efficiency in the water. And I noticed that I swam a little bit fast. I've always known this. Swim a little bit faster, but at a lower heart rate with the pool buoy. And then I was practicing things like this breathing out of my nose instead of out of my mouth, lower my heart rate at the same pace. I haven't done enough of that yet to give you an answer. But I just noticed, like, I'd be like, oh, I forgot what yard I'm on, what distance I'm on. Because it seemed like the heart rate was the one final metric to put it over the hump, to make it so that there's enough information to give you confidence that you can relax and be like, I've got all the metrics I could ever need, and now I can just train my body without any guessing. And it allowed me to both zone out, but all I had to do was just look at that number. I could zone out because all I had to do was look at that number and then know that I was working hard enough. And let's see, between sets, I practiced letting my heart rate go back down. I practiced standing versus, I'm tall and the water's about 3 feet deep, so I can stand on my knees, not my feet, and still have my head above water. And then that really brought my heart rate down, because you're taking the load off your body. Instead of standing, you're almost floating. And so heart rate comes down, which is nice recovery between sets. So my heart rate would get into the 90s, I'll say 190s, get into the 90s after resting, which is good. And that's a health indicator. How much does your heart rate go down between sets? And then I started thinking about, oh my gosh, what a game changer this is for long distance swimming. When I swam across Lake Tahoe, if I had heart rate, now they wouldn't have lasted across the whole lake because it's a 13-hour swim, but I would have bought 2-3 pair of these things to have to switch out, so I had heart rate the entire time, because that's how much of a game changer it is. And then what I did, because I had heart rate, which is measuring my effort, I was able to swim. I basically swam 57 minutes, zone 2, and then decided the last 3 minutes to go zone 3 and into zone 4. And I was able to do it with confidence because I knew what my zones were. It's like no more guessing, so I could do the whole first massive chunk of my swim as zone 2 training, which is really good for you, and then get in my dose of hard at the very end. And yeah, it was pretty great, man. So you can tell, like, I'm super excited. On one hand, I'm like, man, where have these things been my whole life? On the other hand, I'm so happy to have it that I'll take it, dude. I don't care. I'm not going to be mad. It's that good. All right, I got to go into W to the ERK. Got some meetings this morning. And we're also going to talk about green smoothies and Ezekiel cereal. Be right back with more. Bang. I had an extra complication in that I got a whole bunch of cavities drinking green smoothies, because green smoothies have a lot of fruit and acid in it. And I was sipping on them all day. I was making the green smoothies like a big one and then sipping on it. And I had a refrigerator in my office at work, like my own little mini fridge. And so I would take a sip here, take a sip there, take a sip there. So basically I'm bathing my teeth in sugary acid all day. I ended up getting a whole bunch of little cavities, but I was like super healthy, except my teeth had cavities like crazy. And then when I started eating terribly, one thing I started doing was drinking Diet Cokes. And I noticed no more cavities. And Diet Cokes definitely don't prevent cavities. There's nothing in them that prevents cavities, except for the fact that Diet Coke has no sugar in it. And every time you sip on one, you're rinsing your mouth out. With Diet Coke, well, then you're not letting the sugar build up, right? Okay, so I have this aversion to doing green smoothies again. And also my Vitamix blender, which is awesome. The switch on it has gone nuts. Like, it goes from 0 to 1,000,000 like in a millisecond. Oh, and Emily just put it away. Oh, I'm always fighting against Emily putting stuff away. I have to get it all out all over again because she likes the kitchen neat. I don't blame her for that. And then, so we're getting out the blender here, the Vitamix. So 2 days ago, I made a green smoothie. And then it made about 3/4 of a liter. And I have one of those Nalgene liter bottles. It made about 3/4 of a liter. I poured it into there. And then what I would do is, there's a break room at work where I have to walk to go down to the refrigerator. And then I would drink like 1/3 of it or 1/4 of it. And then I always have like a Diet Coke around for the caffeine, really, and the carbonation. And then as soon as I, had my dose of green smoothie, then I would drink some Diet Coke and swish it around in my mouth and make sure I get all the nasty, sugary bits out of my mouth. And I did that yesterday, and I liked it. And then also Saturday or Sunday, I went to the grocery store and I bought Ezekiel cereal, which I haven't bought in years. Bought that, and then had that for breakfast yesterday and for this morning. And it doesn't take much, which is cool because it's expensive. But the stuff is like from the Bible. It's got scripture on it from the Bible. And most people don't know it's punishment stuff. It's like all this healthy stuff, right, that you would think is healthy. And then they leave out the rest of the scripture. Go look it up, where it says, and then cook it over a fire of human excrement and feed it to your slaves or something. It's like, oh, this is supposed to be horrible. But the reason they use the recipe is because it's like one of the oldest recipes for bread and cereal and grains and stuff like that. And then, so it's a really good example of like natural foods that we used to eat. So it's kind of funny. But you could buy Ezekiel bread and use that for your sandwich bread. But I found back in the day that eating the Ezekiel cereal is so high in fiber, and then eating the green smoothie, which is so high in fiber, it's the kale and the carrots really, that, and then the fruit is just to sweeten it up so it's tolerable, that you have this enough fiber throughout the day to make you feel full, and fiber is crazy good for you for weight loss. And so what we're going to try to do, you're going to hear me make a smoothie here in a second, and I'm going to go through the steps. And after my 6-mile run with River, which I also wanted to talk about, I do this 3-mile loop, and I made a video. Hopefully I'm going to post it on Instagram. I haven't posted it yet, so I can't promise anything. But it's so humid that he can do 3 miles, and then I drop him off. And this has been going on forever. We've always had 2 dogs, and I always take one and then pick up the other one and then run with the other one. But right now we're just running with River. Zoe's like a mess out there running. So although I could see that happen, no, I can't. She stops too much to sniff. So River stops so much to sniff that I figured out this thing. I run this 3-mile loop and I let him get all of his sniffs in, and it adds like an extra 15 minutes of running. But I build it into my warm up, right? So the beginning of my run is not too stressful because I'm overcoming this mad calf kind of crazy injury, and my legs are stiff from running too much over the years, and I bike and stuff like that. So the first half of the run, first half hour, lots of breaks kind of mixed in, let the legs warm up. Drop them off at the house. Then I go back out for another 3 miles, and then I run nonstop, and I get a nice consistent run in. And that seems to be what works out right now. But I do 1 lap counterclockwise, and it's downhill at the beginning, which is a nice warm up. Do counterclockwise. Let me get stuff out of the fridge while we talk. And then I was doing the second lap counterclockwise as well. It was getting really boring, and it's uphill the last part with the wind. If it's a hot day, that means the wind's out of the south. And so you end up just cooking, and it sucks. Here's my bottle I'm going to use, my Nalgene. So I'm pulling out kale and carrots, and let's get out blueberries and a banana. I think that's all I'm doing right now. Over time, you start getting nuts, like adding flax seeds, and avocado oil, all kinds of crap. There's the bananas right there. Emily stole one of my bananas. We always joke, Emily's trying to stop me from qualifying for Kona. It's totally an inside joke. It's life that tries to stop you from qualifying for Kona. Okay, so I'm going to rinse off 2 leaves of kale. These aren't like massive leaves. They're just kind of minor, regular leaves. Are you still with me? Okay, here we go. Let me take this over here. I'm going to talk loudly because I got to put the microphone down over there. Rinsing off the kale. If your fruit or veggies don't have a body on them, like a skin, then it's smart to really rinse them off, because then you will avoid pesticides. If it has a skin on it, the pesticides get sprayed on the skin more than anything else. There, I'm tearing up the kale, and then it doesn't really matter so much. Like an avocado has a skin. They say, theoretically, you don't need as much organic. If you're buying, a banana has skin on it, and you're not eating the skin, so you don't need to worry so much about that. Just learned that the other day. I used to feed Kona, remember our big black lab? He loved to eat the kale stem. Oh, man, what a great dog, though. And then, there's the kale, I'm gonna get this off. Now I'm going over here to grab a bag of carrots. Just a little handful of carrots. That's probably enough. Yeah, a handful of carrots. Do baby carrots, that way they're already kind of chopped up. Probably pay less and do like regular carrots. And then, let me close this up. Okay, I'll do that later. And then the real magic is the blueberries and a banana. But the blueberries, whoa. I mean, talk about frozen blueberries. There's this trick I learned. If you eat frozen blueberries, there's some blueberry, a little bit more, like that. Berries are really, really good for you because they're not quite as sweet as fruit. They got a lot of fiber like veggies. And if you eat enough of them, you'll turn into a bear. That's why they call them berries. And then, or you'll just sleep through winter, like you'll hibernate and ignore everything. It's nice. I keep trying to Ziploc this carrot. I feel like it's a lost cause. Oh wait, I got it. Hey. Okay, and then gonna peel a banana, put it in there. Boom, boom. Okay, the banana gives it kind of like a little bit more of a creamy texture. Hold on, I left something in the other room. Where I put it? There it is. Needed my run recovery drink. I think one reason I'm doing this is to avoid the traffic jam on the way into work. Our work still doesn't let us work from home, even though we're in IT. It's absolutely insane. But that's what they want to do. So, okay. I'll edit that out in post. Oh, I add a little bit of apple juice. Not a lot, because Emily's type 1 diabetic, and her rescue drink is apple juice to bring her sugar back up if she has a sugar crash. I don't want to steal her stuff too much. Now, a trick, where's the microphone? A trick I learned is you don't put in all the liquid that you're going to want to use. You put in most of the liquid, and then when you pour the smoothie out, the inside of your smoothie, your mixer, blender, pitcher thing that the smoothie is in is going to be, covered in smoothie bits. Hold on as I plug this in. Emily unplugged it. Okay. And put it in a cabinet like 8 feet up in the air. Let's see. So then where's the microphone? Then what you do is I use the sprayer from the kitchen sink, to rinse out just a little bit the inside of the smoothie of the blender, and then that adds the rest of the liquid. And as I pour that out, because those bits are still good, as I pour that out into my Nalgene bottle, then I've both rinsed out this thing, and I'll rinse it some more under the sink to get it really clean. But then, I've gotten the rest of the stuff that was kind of left over. Now, what's funny is this. When I turn on this blender, it's going to go, because the switch is broken, and it has no modulation. It just goes from 0, it goes to 11, like in Spinal Tap, like instant. So I'm going to have to hold the lid down. Vitamixes are crazy powerful. So hold on, you're going to hear this. There we go. See, I did nothing on that switch, and it just went all over the place. It went hard, easy. Now, if I just tap the button, watch what happens. Oh, that's pretty good. I like that. Oh, crap. That's really good. I think that's good. Okay. I did a Happy Gilmore thing. Just tap it in. I'm barely tapping this little switch. Okay. Then I pour this into my Nalgene bottle. Hold on. You can hear me from way over there. I'm going to bring it closer over. Pour it in. Okay. That's nice. Now, the inside of the smoothie Vitamix blender thing, it's got smoothie bits all in it. I'm going to turn on some water and just rinse it out. And the smoothie's like super thick in the Nalgene thing. So now when I pour this in, the smoothie thing is mostly rinsed out. The pitcher is mostly rinsed out. And my smoothie's kind of a little bit more drinkable. And then I'm going to add some ice to it to keep it cool. All right, and we've got a drink. And then I need to put away the produce. It's crazy when you go grocery shopping and you go to the produce aisle, and kale is like $1.50. Bananas was like $2. Carrots was like $2. Blueberries, frozen blueberries was more expensive, probably like $5. I haven't bought them in a while. These were in the freezer. And then what was it? Bananas, like super cheap. What else? Kale. Anyway, the produce is super cheap, man. You can eat really, they call poverty food is beans and rice and Jesus Christ. It's all you really need to survive on. It's really inexpensive to eat healthy if you eat like green. Okay, I'm going to get off the mic now because I need both hands to put this stuff away and get ready to go to W to the ERK and rinse off a few more things, put the produce away and get dressed. And we'll catch up in a little bit. All right, be right back. All right, we are back. We are driving, and it's a short drive. That way, I'm doing this on purpose. That way I won't talk too long. I was like, man, I know I have a koozie for my Nalgene bottle. I bought it online to keep the contents cold, because I mix some ice in with it. And boom, I found it. It was one of the first times in months that I've looked for something and then found it immediately in the dark. I was like, oh, that's impressive. So anyway, I've slipped my Nalgene bottle into a koozie. And if you have like a tall insulated cup, one that's about a liter, a lot of times they come with a straw, a big wide diameter straw. I was like, oh, I don't have to like suck out of this Nalgene bottle. It's got a snap top lid on it, with a hole that's about 1/2 inch wide, 3/4 inch wide, but it's kind of messy. I'm like, man, I'm gonna try to drink with the straw. And I used the straw from my other tall thing and it worked, although I'm suspicious it's sucking from the bottom and all the floaty, chunky stuff is at the top. So we'll see how that works out, but that would be a motivation to run the blender a little bit longer to make sure I get everything kind of chewed up. You don't want to chew up stuff till it's a puree because your stomach having to work to digest stuff is part of the deal of why it's healthy. You puree stuff too much, then it's baby food, and then basically it's processed food. It just goes straight into your bloodstream, and your body doesn't have to work for it, and then you get diseases, illnesses. Another thing on the swim, the one downside to the goggles, I showed them to Emily last night. She was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But then she's not a big swimmer, and she's like, I can't see. What the heck am I looking at? And so anyway, it was kind of funny. But the one downside is with charging. If you buy the 2-piece system, now you got 2 things to charge. You got to charge the goggles, and you got to charge the heart rate thing. A cool little trick, I'm looking at one right now, is every cable that you might get confused with other cables. We have all these black charging cables. I put colored, really small, thin colored zip ties, which you can get at the hardware store. You can buy like a mixed bag or a container of just every color on earth zip tie. And headphone cables are light blue. I zip tie the cable with so it's got a colored tag on it basically. And in a pile of black cables, I could figure out the blue one is to charge my headphones. The white cables are for our iPhone stuff, and then a cable with a little yellow zip tie on the end of it. That's for Garmin, charging my Garmin watches. I'm trying to think of others. I got some purple and whatever. And the goggles come with a cable, and I do appreciate that it's flat, but it's proprietary, which sucks. But the thing is for stuff to be waterproof, you can't plug it into something. What they use is a magnetic, and then it just touches things on the outside, connectors on the outside, and then nothing's open to the water. So I get it for now until we come up with a more universal waterproof charging thing. And if you bought the new goggles, it's all in one. So that would be an upside of that. The new goggles, you can tell them apart from the old ones, and the new goggles have a yellow strap on them, and the old ones are black or gray. I can't see them. They're behind me right now. I want to turn around while I'm driving. And so the new ones are yellow, and they're going to have heart rate built right in. The downside is having to charge 2 things and keep up with that kind of stuff. The upside is the user interface is awesome. It shows you the charge stuff as you turn everything on. That's a really smart way to make electronics, because it reminds you right in your face about how much charge you got. So if you're wondering, all you have to do is just turn it on, and then you're like, oh, I've got 30% battery left, or 10%, or 0, it's dead. On my drive to the pool, I can put it on a charger, and now cars have all these charging ports inside, so it's not that bad. I am directly behind a 4Runner, and part of triathlon and endurance and all this stuff, and especially mountain bike racing and gravel racing, it's like an off-road park, off-road vehicle exhibition at these places when you go to a big mountain bike race, with what everybody's bringing to the table, because they're all in outdoors driving. And it's really interesting. Toyota just came out with the new 4Runner and the new Land Cruiser, and they're all built on the same platform. And the 4Runner and the Land Cruiser are built in Japan, so the quality of that construction is arguably going to be better. The Tacoma, same platform, same pieces. They're not like a different vehicle, really. So if you buy a Tacoma, you're basically getting a Land Cruiser. If you buy a 4Runner, you're basically getting a Land Cruiser. But the Tacoma, I think, is built in Mexico, and the Tundra is built in Texas. And yeah, I saw a Cybertruck the other day, and Kai saw one for the first time. And it's a mix. People are like, they hate it or they love it. It's kind of funny. We'll get into another show about the upsides and downsides of trying to deal with those things if you got one. But like, I've had an Xterra and a Honda Element. I love off-roady vehicles, and this truck I'm driving right now is my first, I call it my Toyota Ram Cruiser. No, wait, my Dodge Ram Cruiser, which actually used to be a vehicle. It's kind of funny. But it's got everything that like a Land Cruiser would have, and I love it. And the latest generation of Dodge Rams are like really overbuilt, and they've been described as like built, and I'm not a Ram like nut or anything like that. They're like, they're built way too nicely, and so that it falls into the realm of like a Land Cruiser. But you're looking for 4-wheel drive, all-wheel drive for when it's icy and snowy and patchy, because you can't drive 4-wheel drive on dry pavement and take turns. It'll mess up it breaks your drivetrain. And so you want all-wheel drive, which allows things to move independently. But anyway, something that people should know, if you're getting a Toyota 4Runner, I'm really disappointed. Only the highest end Toyota 4Runner has the all-wheel drive switch where, you can put it into all-wheel drive to deal with snow and ice and stuff. And I'm telling you, people deal with that. I'm about to do it right now because it's wet out here. It just started raining. Mine has the all-wheel drive option where I can turn that on. And so if you're just driving around and you're not like doing really off-roading, the thing to have is two-wheel drive with the option to switch it into all-wheel drive with the push of a button when things get kind of nuts. Was slippery, like I just did, especially if it hasn't rained in a while and then it starts raining and how slick everything gets. Then the Toyota 4Runner, and again, the reason I'm talking about this because these are the vehicles we use to take our bikes places and get ourselves places for these events. And a lot of them are out in the boonies, so you do have to do a little bit of gravel road driving or park in a field or something. And it rains, and how do you get out, right? Well, the two most awesome versions of the Toyota 4Runner, the TRD Pro and this new version called the Trail Hunter or something like that, which are just awesome. And they have all this off-road capability of like little switches and buttons and things that do amazing things and all this other stuff, except for all-wheel drive. The all-wheel drive option is not in there. So if you're, but it is in the one, the Toyota 4Runner that is like the limited or the platinum or whatever they want to call it. The one with street wheels and the most like damageable stuff if you go off-road. And it's like, dude, what are you doing, man? So if you want but they're the exact same size. The 4Runner and the Land Cruiser are now the exact same size, except the Land Cruiser's taller, so it's got more headroom inside, I think. But the Land Cruiser comes with all-wheel drive and also four-wheel drive, like high and low, which locks the wheels even better. The thing is you can't turn the all-wheel drive off. There is no two-wheel drive, and so I don't know what to think about that. Because most of the time, two-wheel drive is fine, and it saves a little bit of gas. And now, we're doing our little section of car talk, but it's a good thing to know if you want the most off-roady version of the 4Runner. You might actually just go look at a Land Cruiser instead. And they dropped the price on the Land Cruiser a ton. So they're about the same price as a 4Runner. They definitely overlap in price, and they're the same size. The one thing that the 4Runner has that is just so awesome is the tailgate glass rolls down either remotely or right there at the switch at the back. And that's awesome for hanging stuff out of the back, like it's a pickup truck tailgate. And I don't think that the 4Runner, the Land Cruiser, does that. Anyway, and last thing back to the swim goggles thing is to charge the heart rate thing. It comes with this little like USB key looking charger, this little piece of plastic instead of a cable. And that's something I'm worried about losing. I don't like that at all. So I have to pay extra careful attention to where I keep it so I don't lose it. But anyway, I drank some of my smoothie on my way in, and then now I need a diet. I'm going to go buy a Diet Coke from the vending machine to rinse my teeth out. I'm not perfect, okay? Here's a 4Runner right here. And then I got to get to work working on stuff. Got meetings today, and I want to go bike ride this evening. We'll see what happens. All right, out, bang. All right, back in the car. Got some whizzle work done. So why would you want a four-wheel drive vehicle in the first place if you're a triathlete or a road racer or whatever? The thing that I've found that it's really helpful in is when you go to all these events, a lot of times they have you park in a field, and then a field starts getting torn up. The road in between cars starts getting torn up, the grass. And man, it is handy to have four-wheel drive. I see more cars getting stuck doing that than almost anything else. I've been at a mountain bike race where a Land Cruiser started sliding and almost went into a creek channel. And then people were trying to pull their RVs out, and if you had two-wheel drive, it was just spinning, and they had to hook up tractors to pull people out. It's pretty crazy. And then with all-wheel drive, a hidden feature that I found that's pretty cool is it makes for a lot more control when driving on gravel roads. And for gravel biking, we drive down some gravel roads sometimes. I try not to do it too much because it's not great for the environment just to be driving your car for no reason. But to go explore, like, hey, where does this road actually go through? Because on Google Maps, it'll show that a road goes through, but it's actually like gated or so because they do it from overhead. There's a bumper sticker right now in front of me on a Jeep Renegade called Go See Ken. If you see those in the Houston area, that has to do with the bike shop. And he used to be the manager of the bike shop here in College Station and got in trouble for giving people too good of deals. But they sold Cannondales, and the whole town, the whole region was covered in Cannondales when he worked there. And he was just really lenient with dropping prices, and it just put more people on bikes. And I need to go visit him sometime. I think he's in the Woodlands. And he put me on my first Cannondale. And the story is I had a Cannondale, a used M500 on layaway. And this is in the 90s. And then it was on layaway for like 3 months as I was saving, maybe that long. And then I went in to go make my last payment maybe. And it was gone. Somebody he had sold it. And then he felt bad, I guess. It was just, dude, I was really young. And he was, the manager of the shop. Who knows what he's really thinking. He was like, oh, I'll give you a new one for the same price you were going to pay for the layaway one. For a used one. Same bike, but, like this year's model. Same color and everything. And I was like, dude, okay. And that sold me on the shop forever. And then, the manager, and he did not like it that, I guess he was so fast and loose with the inventory. And making decisions like that. I think it was very good decisions, and the bike shop has never been as busy and as popular as now as it was back then. So, he's. I wonder if he owns. Okay, we need to find out more about Ken. That's interesting. Good bike shop stories, man. I got a lot of those. I worked in a bike shop briefly for like a day, just to do it. Did it for free. I reorganized their tires. But anyway, so driving down these gravel roads to see if they go through, to see if they're actually rideable. And you get up some speed and, you're not driving crazy or anything. I'm just saying, you're just driving. But gravel roads are real slippery because it's basically ball bearings. And you go through a turn too fast, and next thing you know, you're spinning out. Or you're going uphill, or there's all kinds of reasons why four-wheel drive, on-demand four-wheel drive, which is what all-wheel drive is actually like really great. But it's not something that you would bother putting your, if you just had four-wheel drive, putting your four-wheel drive into. Okay, so then the last thing I want to talk about is yesterday morning, all the way up until lunch, I had this amazing feeling of same feeling as when I was on my training program to become an Ultraman, which is a 1.5 Ironman. And I'd figured out, I followed the instructions based on Gordo Byrne, who's like the expert in this stuff, is just keep increasing your CTL and keep doing your volume. Ultraman is so long that speed work is kind of not really going to do much for you. So basically you just work on your CTL, your chronic training load, and get those points and watch them stack up. And then on a spreadsheet I made, what does my CTL need to be this week? And then this week, and this week, and this week, by the end of the week. And for a progression, so that it was like a month out, it was like 135, 145, something like that. And as I started doing it, I started realizing that it was so simple, so easy, and you didn't have to think. And it just worked. And it gives you this sense of cool, calm confidence, kind of like serotonin, where it's kind of like an anti-aggression kind of thing, because it's the link between serotonin is if you're low on serotonin, then actually you're stressed and you have anxiety, and then that makes you more aggressive. It's like 2 steps, 3 steps to get to aggressive. Or if somebody's like got everything that feels like they've got everything they need, everything kind of figured out, then they're relaxed, and then they don't get aggressive with other people because they're not pissed off. You know, if I'm in a gas station parking lot, and the guy that's got a Mercedes and a well-paying job that's very low stress, I don't know, he's an investment banker, and he just like works like an hour a week and whatever, and he's rich and whatever, he's not going to be aggressive at all because he is serotonin. Which also one time I saw was a drag strip, what do you call it, a drag queen name. They have these funny names. Somebody's name was Sarah Tonin. It was so funny. Anyway, the guy that's he's about to get expelled, whatever, from his apartment, and his car's broken down, so he had to walk, and he doesn't have enough money to get gas, and things are going really badly. That's the guy that's going to be aggressive because he's at his wit's end, you know. He's desperate, which makes you aggressive. So when you feel like you've got training all figured out and it's all just going to work, then it gives you this feeling of just accomplishment and just no stress, and you can just kind of roll through the day. And I had this feeling like that yesterday because I was like, dude, for swimming with the heart rate, swimming by heart rate, and it's like displayed there right in front of your face. Oh my God, dude, that's all it takes is making sure you're in zone 2. That's it. And then if you want a little dose of zone 4-ish, you know, going hard to make it burn, and then it pushes, you know, a little bit. And I'm like, man, that is just like, it's a big mistake. It's funny and Zen. We should just like say it anyway because it's we're making fun of the cliche. I've got it all figured out. As soon as somebody says I got it all figured out, write that down and say, remind me 1 month. Remind me 1 week, dude. It ain't gonna last. But anyway, this sense of calm, coolness, and I'm just like, yeah, dude, I've got the swim all figured out. The problem is you got to get there 3 times a week. That's the problem, for an hour at a time. Now, making that happen is a totally different problem than knowing what to do in the pool. But man, I cannot wait for them to make glasses. Now, somebody's made them before. I remember they were called Recon, but we're going to see this thing, you know, where I think the most handiest thing in your glasses is your heart rate, right? And I'm talking for like I'm wearing glasses right now. I took out my contacts and I've been wearing glasses yesterday and today. If my glasses displayed in my off on the corner my heart rate just at any given time, just all the time, and just a very faint number where I don't really notice it, then I could tell if I'm getting stressed out. And what a handy thing that would have. Oh, and also because I felt like I had everything under control yesterday and whatever, part of the big picture is, you know, that allows you to make better choices, more calm, cool choices. And that leads to better nutrition and better dieting and eating more veggies and stuff. Because, you know, when you're stressed out, you eat garbage food. So there's that too. It's so frustrating that it's a compounding effect, you know, like not eating right, eating like crap makes you feel bad, which makes you make bad decisions, which makes you keep not eating right. It's kind of like alcohol, you know, one drink actually lowers your inhibition, so you're more likely to drink a second one and a third one. So you just shouldn't start if you don't want to get into 2-3 beers. Or 4 for some people, 5, 6. Because what I noticed was wearing the goggles with the heart rate being displayed was I could see between sets. Between sets I could lower my heart rate by being more relaxed. Like bring your heart rate down, right? But we talked about this with the guy from Magnolia Masters, the swim guy. He and I did a talk and maybe an interview about. He's done a bunch of research and showed that the lower your heart rate is on purpose, you know, like you kind of half meditate, you know, you bring your heart rate down, and then calm and cool and relax at the start, that for long events, you end up performing a whole lot better. So like this, so between sets, I was like, because my heart rate was right there in my line of sight, I would be like, oh, okay. Just breathe easy, calm down. Because I was wanting it to get out of it was at 100, whatever. I was like, oh, let's get it down in the 90s. Let's see if we can get down in the 80s, just relaxing. And then it crossed my mind, while I'm swimming, you can change your behavior and swim easier to bring your heart rate down. But if I was in a meeting, we've all got these watches, right, that show heart rates. All you need is a display and a transmitter. And so you could put it on your glasses. And then I'm in a meeting and I'm starting to get nervous or agitated before a meeting. I'm about to go visit somebody. I can be like, dude, this is stressing me out. So you can, doing something about it is one thing, but just you can't do something about it until you can identify it. You could identify that your heart rate is getting high and elevated. The number could change colors, right? It could go from green to, kind of red if it starts getting up high into the zone, and then flashing if it gets really high. But man, wouldn't it be cool if Form made these glasses for biking and running? I predict that they do. I have no insider information. I think that they should. I think that they're leaders in the industry. They got it done and they made a successful product so far. People seem to be really enjoying them. And, Recon came out, but I never really saw anybody using them. But with the Form goggles, I see people using them at my pool. And, you got Lionel Sanders using them. So the problem is with glasses, you need different tints. Goggles is one thing, but for glasses for running and biking, now we do have that. We have those lenses now that change like super fast. Kai had a pair of those. They're super cool. So you could have glasses that have that. Then you can wear them for sports. Somebody mentioned to me if you could break it off and then just clip it onto any glasses. It'd have to be really small, really, really small. But another thing that doesn't seem to be bothering anybody is we're all getting used to seeing people wear, I'm wearing them right this second, the headphones, shocks, because they're open ear, they don't bother with your hearing. So you just have them on, and a lot of times nothing's playing. I just have them on so that I can listen to something if I want to, and also if I get a phone call, I can take a phone call. And I wear them so much, I've got little dents on the side of my head, I think, where they sit all the time. I don't care, dude. They're that good. And if we had the glasses with that on it, I could be at work and have my heart rate, and I would set it, to like minimal stuff. You know how your watch or whatever shows, you set all these alerts on your watch or on your phone. Like if you get an email or you get a message or something like that, you could customize it with an app on your phone so that it shows only the subject line of text messages, and then only you could see it, and then it kind of fades away. And it's pretty small on the side of the goggles, And what you would do is take the module with all the computer logic in it and move it to the back. I think that was the problem with the Recons, is it was all like heavy in the front. And then if you're biking or running, it hurts your nose because of the heaviness. And then it needs to be balanced, and in the pool that doesn't matter. But if it's on one side, then it's pulling down on one side. So one side of your glasses being heavier than the other is a problem. So I'm just thinking off the top of my head, a solution is you have the logic to it built into like the earpieces or behind the head, behind the ear, to counterbalance it, because that's going to add a little bit of weight. And then on both sides, if it weighs anything, put it on both sides, a fiber optic thin, very thin, because it doesn't take much, fiber optic thin cable running from the logic unit in the back along the earpieces to inside the frame just a little bit, and then a lens that spreads the fiber optic signal, whatever, the light, the message, the text, out onto the lens so you could see it in certain places. And I bet you they could do that. And then, if it weighs anything, then put it on both sides. And what's the problem with it? If it's thin, then it doesn't matter. Nobody notices it. And then it's on both sides. So then you have, text messages on the left, and what is it? Where did we start? Heart rate on the right. Be kind of cool. Or your steps. I don't know. Whatever. It's going to end up with too much information. You're not going to be able to see, and then you're going to fall down. All right. I'm going to go inside and have some lunch. Out. Bye. Yo. I'm at the house, and I just made something interesting for lunch. and I thought I would go ahead and tell you about it. This episode is just going to be interesting things that happen in a week of the life of a triathlete. A few years back, I don't remember where I saw it, how I figured it out, but I found out that you can cook scrambled eggs in the microwave in a ceramic mug or ceramic bowl, but basically a coffee cup, let's just say. And it works, and it's crazy. And instead of, taking a long time and get a whole bunch of dishes dirty to scramble some eggs, then frying pan, all that stuff, spatula. Dude, this is so crazy. It's such a cool thing. You get a coffee mug. Let's see. I used one that actually had an Ironman written on the outside of it. And then I got it some race. And then what I do is to make it so it's easier for cleanup. And so the egg doesn't, by not letting the egg stick to the side of the coffee cup when you cook it, I actually pour in maybe like half a tablespoon or so of olive oil. I use avocado oil. Avocado oil's better for you for a multitude of reasons, especially at high heat, and also because I just said so. It tastes great. And then I smear with my finger, because the microwave is going to kill everything that's not good for you. I smear with my finger the avocado oil around the cup. So basically the entire inside of the cup is coated with olive oil or avocado oil. Doesn't have to be a lot, just enough to do that. And because it's basically going to be your poor man's Teflon anti-stick. And then I crack 2 eggs into the coffee cup and then stir it with a spoon, the same spoon I'm going to end up eating with. I stir it with a spoon. You don't have to go crazy with it. You don't have to puree it or anything, but just stir it with a spoon so that it's nice and stirred and the yolks are all broken up and it's just stirred pretty good. Then put the spoon in the sink, a clean sink-ish, and then put it in the microwave, the coffee cup with raw egg in it, in the microwave for 30 seconds. Let it cook for 30 seconds. Pull it out. Use your eggy spoon to stir it some more because like the outer edges of it will be cooked, but the inside will still be uncooked. And what's happening is the egg cooking in the microwave, is cooking on its own, but then the ceramic of the mug I'll always check under the mug to make sure it's microwave safe so it doesn't crack on you. And then anyway, the ceramic of the mug re-radiates the heat back into the egg and it cooks the egg almost like a pressure cooker without the pressure. But anyway, it cooks the egg. And so when you stir it and then put it in for another 30 seconds, you have to actually watch. The egg will start cooking and coming up over the top, but like cooked over the top, like a mushroom cloud. It's pretty cool. And then, you stir it some more. And, you can rinse your spoon off in the sink. Make sure you don't have any raw egg on it anymore if you don't want that. And then this time, because I did 2 eggs and the ceramic mug was kind of thin, I did another 10 seconds. But basically, I had scrambled eggs in a minute, minus the stirring. And I eat it. I put cheese over it, Mexican cheese, and that's shredded. Stir that in. You can put spinach in, like on the second round of cooking, and then it'll cook down. You could put all kinds of stuff in there. People put cream cheese on their eggs, whatever you want. I put in cheese and then stirred it around, and the eggs were still hot enough that it melted the cheese all in there. And then I rinsed off my spoon really good, and then put some salsa on top of it, stirred it up, and the salsa cooled down the eggs because the salsa came out of the fridge. It cooled down the eggs. The cheese kind of cooled down the eggs a little bit, but now the cheese is all melted in there. Now I'm eating scrambled eggs with cheese and salsa out of a coffee cup. And I don't have any dishes to clean up except for the very thing that I ate out of. And I did it with a microwave. And the only thing, I was about to do it at lunch at work. The only thing is if you cook eggs in the microwave, it's not as bad as that one person at work that cooks fish in the break room. You don't want to be that person. Eggs are about half as bad, but they're still noticeable because the reason eggs are yellow is that's sulfur in the eggs. And sulfur is a stinky smell. And there's your interesting meal. That's what I ate for lunch. And when I get back to the orifice, I'm going to eat a big chug of my green smoothie. It was really good, by the way, when I was drinking it. Oh, and another trick for I saw a friend at work that was eating Ezekiel cereal, and he said, "Oh, did you see that commercial for Gravel cereal on SNL a long time ago?" And I looked, and I could not find it. I found they've done like 3 or 4 different fake commercials for cereal. They're the ones that did Colon Blow and some other stuff. But I couldn't find one where it was gravel. I found an episode of How I Met Your Mother where she was eating cereal and they asked her, "What are you eating, gravel?" And then the other one was Quarry cereal, which might be a thing, but there's not enough videos of it out there to find anything about it. That might be the cereal that my friend was talking about where it was just rocks. And so Quarry cereal. But anyway, the green smoothie tasting better already reminded me that when something doesn't taste good at first, if you give it some time, the microbes, the bacteria in your stomach, you'll start developing the bacteria in your stomach that digests that food, and it'll send signals to your brain that food is good, because now there's enough of them that are saying that send the signals to crave that thing. That's how you get food addiction, right? Say you only eat McDonald's and milkshakes. Well, in the end, pretty soon you develop all the bacteria in your gut is like bacteria that loves McDonald's and milkshakes. And when you don't eat it, they get mad because they're that type. They like that. And you've genetically engineered those bacteria in your stomach by eating that food. So then when you start eating another kind of food, you got to be gentle on yourself and kind of trick yourself for a little bit. And until you develop the bacteria in your gut that like that kind of food and connects to your brain that food is good. They're all playing a trick on you, you know? You're basically, what is it? We're all bacteria pretty much. Let's see. Then the trick that I did this morning, because Ezekiel cereal with raisins on it, you're like, man, you're praying for that raisin. You're like, dude, come on, give me a raisin. And they don't put a ton of raisins in it because the raisin's sweet, because the cereal is not sweet. It's like eating gravel. I used to call it the gravel and sticks. Yeah, the kale. And Ezekiel cereal is a gravel and sticks diet. It's like the mulch diet. But anyway, I took the same sugar that I put in my coffee. We have a little sugar scoop. And I just sprinkled the tiniest amount of sugar over my Ezekiel cereal. And it, not spoonfuls of it. It's probably like 2 teaspoons. I don't even know how big a teaspoon is without looking at it. But like of sugar, maybe. Probably more like a teaspoon, and just sprinkled it over the top of the cereal and mixed it in. And that gave it just enough sweetness so that I'm moving from a cereal that has way more sugar in it to this stuff. And the transition is a little bit easier. And then eventually I'll forget to put it on there, and then I'll be out of that phase. All right, that's it. Enjoy your eggs. Out. All right, leaving the pool, swimming by heart rate. Yet again, forgot where I was swimming, like distance-wise and time-wise. Just lost track because I was using heart rate, and it is wonderful. It makes long-distance stuff so much easier to look up and to be further along than what you thought you were, you know? Let's see, let's open this bad boy up. And I was, trying to figure out, what's going on. And by checking on my heart rate, I can say, okay, this is about hard enough. And then after, like a little bit of going, this is about the right pace for this heart rate, then I don't need to check things anymore. I just need to keep doing that kind of effort and that kind of pace and like keep it right there, right? And then my mind starts wandering on shower thoughts. I was thinking like what I was going to do at work today. I was thinking about ways to keep, there's somebody peeling out over there. Ways to keep my boss informed better. I was thinking about some coaching I did last night. There's a guy in F-150 doing donuts in the parking lot. He's drifting. It's a good way to roll over. You really shouldn't do that in a tall vehicle. Just saying. A lifted 4x4 truck is... You're going to roll. Maybe. Anyway, this stuff applies to biking and running as well. And like I was sitting there in one of my many just drifting brain thoughts while getting just an awesome workout in. It crossed my mind, like, what if I told you I need to put on more deodorant? It's in the door of my car. I think we're done back here. Let's see, now we got a guy drifting in donuts in a Dodge Charger. That's a smarter vehicle. Oh my. I'm replacing my 2 front tires today. I'm excited. Got an appointment at Discount Tire. And I know there's a Vietnamese place right next door. Oops, dropped that. And I scheduled it for lunch. And it takes them about an hour. So I think everything's gonna work out. All right, fire engine 1. Bam. But it's like, what if I told you that you could become a fantastic endurance athlete? Really, really good. Maybe one of the best, but also just be really happy and live a really long, healthy life while listening to audiobooks and podcasts about whatever subject matter you're interested in. Like, I like physics and science. I was listening to 50 science facts this morning, unusual. Koalas actually have fingerprints exactly like humans. They're the only other animal. That's pretty funny. But you could become this great athlete all while basically getting a master's level degree of education in a subject matter, or 2 or 3. I think I've been through like 4 of them in all these years, because you just train by heart rate. If you got a power meter, check your power, but just get into that zone and just cruise along. It's so amazing. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about before we get off the mic is cadence. I was talking about cadence on my bike ride earlier and lowering my cadence on purpose because I could feel like it wasn't getting good enough training. And it just happens to be that Fast Talk podcast, which is a great cycling podcast that does science-based research and interviews with scientists, obviously. They did a whole episode on cadence. And the research shows that high cadence intervals, low cadence intervals, stuff like that aren't as impactful, or especially high cadence, as there's no connection to success that doing them will make you a better cyclist. What they have found is that professional cyclists have a higher cadence than amateur cyclists. But I'm about to go into the logical fallacies that are going on in there. They describe a bunch of the logical fallacies and the misbeliefs and the myths and things like that. That's actually going on. Like when you do low cadence, because of the extra work that you're pushing yourself with, you're actually recruiting some more higher fast twitch muscle fibers than what you think. Not as much as if you're doing super high speed turnover, but you're still recruiting some. So you can train your fast twitch while doing low turnover, slow twitch. So stuff like that. But for example of a logical fallacy, well, the results are all over the place. What people need is different per person, which goes to the real truth in that what you need to be better is to figure out what you need to be better. And it varies per person. Some people need to do lower cadence work. Some people need to do higher cadence work, and they, measure oxygen usage to determine efficiency in a lab. And they found that people are more efficient at just a slightly lower cadence than what you would think. And then also than what they were used to, usually. And then if you're more efficient, then you have more energy over the long run. But that is so loaded with logical fallacies, because over the long run, and then what do professionals do, totally depends on what's the long run, how long, and then also what type of bike riding are you doing. So you're doing an Ironman, that is, you need to be non-reactive and consistent and actually keep your variability kind of low to preserve your legs for running, because the bike, you're measuring all this stuff on the bike, but the bike isn't where shit's going to fall apart. It's going to fall apart on the run. And professional cyclists are going a lot faster because they're riding in a pack and they're all talented and really well trained. So they're going faster. And the faster you go, the further the ground is escaping beneath you, behind you, away from you. And so you got to do a higher turnover to keep that grip on the ground because it's running away, right? If a baseball goes by real slow and you try to hit it the same direction and add to it, you don't have to try to swing as hard, right? But if a baseball is going by really fast and you want to hit it with the baseball bat, let's say like a tennis ball and a tennis racket, that's easier, and you want to keep it going and it's already going fast, you got to swing faster, right? To keep with it, to keep up with the same speed. So that's a higher turnover. And to these guys are already going fast. They're in a draft, so they don't have as much resistance working against them to go that fast. And so they're able to put out a higher turnover without as much strain because the ground's disappearing behind them, and it's easy to go that fast. So it's easier to do a higher turnover to go those same speeds. And then the other thing is professional cycling, and I'm sure that this is what they're studying the most of. This is their largest sample size, is pro cyclists, and their largest data set is from races. And they've got this problem in professional cycling where people are always attacking off the front, and you need to be ready, right? Well, to be ready to attack, you need to be to accelerate really quickly. And accelerating from a low, hard gear is actually it's slower to accelerate that way. If you're already mid-range and you need to accelerate, then accelerating is easier because you're already kind of partway up to that higher RPM to accelerate, right? So you need to be, and you get trained to be comfortable at this medium-high cadence so that you can be reactive to that type of racing. And that's a completely different type of racing than long-distance, non-drafting Ironman. And like I've said, Chrissy Wellington was just notorious and alarming at how low her cadence was all the time. And then they say, well, then on race day, just ride, what feels natural. Anyway, I want everybody to go listen to that podcast. That's your homework. We're about at the end of the episode. The Fast Talk podcast, and it has to do with cadence. Look at the one on cadence, because we're going to talk a lot more about that, because I'm trying to work on my cadence, and that'll be a subject matter for a whole bunch of more episodes. And also green smoothies. All right, I got to go. Talk to you all in a bit. Bye. Bing. All right, just finishing up a bike ride. Let's give it a little spin. There you go. There's your proof. And 1 hour and a little bit faster than what I used to do. And I'll tell you why in a second. It's about to be nighttime. The sun's setting. It's twilight a little bit. It's getting close. I got like 10 minutes. And turn it off. I got snot in my nose. My white blinky light on the front, which I've started riding with, even though I didn't used to, because I got a couple that are just tiny and they recharge easily. Put the bike in the back here. There's a kitty cat watching. Turn off the radar. There we go. Okay. I'm going to come back here in a minute. So I was riding along, JRA, just riding along, and my cleats, and realized a car passed me and I wasn't getting the beep in my headphones. It's an app on your phone. There's a Varia app that will alert you through your headphones if a car's coming, not just from your bike computer, but it's way better on your headphones. And I'm wearing the open ear headphones. What a world we live in, man. Everything's changed so much. This is so great. Okay. I got this stuff off. And, I fed the donkey some carrots. That's up on Instagram, Zen Triathlon on Instagram. River's got one of my shoes, thank you. I think he's been peeing on my bike, on the bike tire when it's in the house. That's why I'm putting it in the backyard. They need to stay inside so I go in the backyard and jump in the pool unmolested, because they pick fights with dogs, not real fights, but they bark at dogs on the other side of the fence. And then you can't hear anything while I'm trying to record this, because I want to talk about big gearing on purpose, riding a little bit too big of a gear as a training method. Okay. All right. I got my recovery drink, and here, let's play it. That's I'll figure out what it is in a second, but it says, please remain calm at the top of it. Oh, that's nice. And, I need a towel. I'll use one of my orange mud towels. Love these things. Let me dunk. Let's go under. Take off my headphones, almost forgot. Oh, that felt nice. The dogs are barking at something out front. Let me see if I can figure out if Emily's nearby. You find my Emily? No, she's visiting a patient. Okay, so I'm wearing this old jersey, cycling jersey. That's the high vis yellow, that kind of highlighter color. Which is something that you hardly ever see like really experienced cyclists wear. It's usually like weekend cyclists and commuters and people that like aren't competitive cyclists. It's that kind of jersey, you know, no logos, nothing, just high vis yellow. It's very beginner looking. And I got it a long time ago from Academy, which is like Walmart, but with way more camping stuff. Camping and fishing and hunting. They have the wall of guns, you know, but it's budget stuff. They got a few nice things. But anyway, like their bike selection's like the equivalent of like Target or Walmart, if you want to get an idea of what it's like. But anyway, they do have a cycling clothing section on occasion, and it's a good place to buy budget stuff. And I bought this jersey there and a long time ago, and it's older, so it's a little bit worn out, not too much, but it's also just a little bit too big. It's like club fit instead of competitive fit. And it does actually, but the thing is the mesh on it is really breathable, I've realized. Like this is really, of all the jerseys I've owned, I've got some that are very breathable and some that aren't, and this is on the more breathable side. And that's very valuable here in Texas. So I'm like, man, you know, I want to wear this jersey more often. And then the other thing is I did the trick where I put my phone, which is heavy, in the back center pocket, and it pulled, even though the jersey's a little bit too big, it pulled the whole jersey tight, more tight, I should say, against my upper body. And then I was more aero. And I rode this section. Wait, I'm going to make sure I get, about an hour. It's an hour loop, an hour and 3 minutes. Well, no, it's actually like an hour and 7 now that I think about it. I forgot about this one part. And I just rode it in an hour and 2, but not because of that so much. Because usually when I ride with a better, tighter fitting jersey. But anyway, one thing I wanted to mention is I've got that watch face on both of my Garmin's, the same one. I forgot what it's called, but it's got sunrise and sunset time on it. It's really handy because I know what time I need to be on the bike if I'm going to do an hour ride and be back at the house before it gets dark. And that really helped out today because during the fall and spring like this, the times are changing rapidly of how late the sun stays up and goes down. With my radar on the back, the white blinky light on the front, riding gravel roads and backcountry county roads felt really safe. And I do have to ride this little stretch of road I don't like that's got cars on it. But the white blinky light in the high-vis jersey, but specifically the white blinky light around twisty turns when I come around a turn with trees and stuff. So a car might be surprised. And out in the county, you know, there's no center stripe. Cars take I do it too. You know, you take the turn wide where you could hit oncoming cyclist because you don't see them. But the white blinky light is really cool. And just as a reminder, always put your stuff on blinky. Your rear light, your front light, blinky, always. Because that's what gets people's attention. A steady red light or a steady white light doesn't do it as much as a blinky does. Studies show. I think that in one study they showed it kind of varies around the world in your culture. And it was like there were some odd countries where a red light was better or something, but like a solid light, but it was really rare. Anyway, back to training. What I wanted to mention was I've noticed a pattern lately where I've just run out of power, and I think I've overworked my neurological system doing like high cadence. And I spent years getting my cadence higher and higher and higher, and it worked for a long time. I was increasing my power. I got my FTP up to like 350 maybe. Maybe it's like a fish, it's like a little bit more every time I think of it. It was over 300 easily. And I know I did like 3 hours at 270 one time, or 275 maybe. Anyway, and a lot of that had to do with, most people start off cycling, you pedal too slow. They call it Steve Austin, the Bionic Man, whatever, where they showed like super speed by going super slow in the 70s TV show. Got to Google it if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you're a younger generation. But it's really funny. Seats like really low and then pedaling really slow is a great way to blow out your knees and get nowhere fast. But anyway, what you do is you set cadence targets. You do sets, intervals of higher cadence. And then over time, your natural cadence climbs to match that higher cadence. So you 2 minutes at 100 RPM, let's say. You don't really need to do that. You just need to be like, I'm going to spin more and more up stuff. And then after a while, you start building up a higher cadence. And then that starts to feel natural. But higher cadence wears out your neurological system faster. And it's got a max. And so let's say you're a taller, bigger person like me. I naturally have because my limbs are longer, a lower turnover, like a slower turnover. So if you take like a tall dog and then like a wiener dog, to go the same speed, the wiener dog with the little short legs, his legs are moving really fast, really high RPM. While the tall dog, say a Great Dane, is just kind of loping along, right? And so cadence does vary with your height. It does matter a little bit, leg length. And it applies to swimming too. I have a really slow turnover in swimming. Because I got really long arms. I've got a 6'5", I think, wingspan, maybe more, maybe 6'6". And so I don't need to pull as frequently as somebody with T-Rex short arms. We used to tease my friend. And there's a funny t-shirt out there that says T-Rex hates backstroke. It's got a T-Rex on his back trying to swim, these little tiny arms. But anyway, the thing that you need to train depends on the person. It's the thing that, a solar light just turned on. It's the thing that's your current weakness. Your greatest weakness is, you can train any one of your weaknesses and improve. You don't have to aim just for your greatest weakness. But one of my weaknesses, it seems like I'm noticing, is I've done so much high cadence and so much spinning that I don't have as much power as I used to have climbing. And when I do long rides with lots of hills, my legs fatigue sooner than they should. And I'm like, man, what's going on? Because I used to have really great power in my legs. I used to ride a single speed around, and I did the MS 150 on a single speed. I need to write that on my website of my accomplishment, of Brett's list of stupidity. I did the MS 150 on a freaking single speed. I did it on a 1985 Kuwahara road bike that, it's like straight gauge steel, weighs a ton, that I'd converted into a single speed. It was my brother's bike in high school, and he graduated in 89. And so it might be an 86. That's probably an 85. But anyway, I converted it to a single speed, and actually it was a fixed gear. It's a flip-flop. I could flip the rear wheel around like a messenger bike and do a fixed gear or a single speed. And I used to do my training rides on that, on a single speed, because I figured if I'm not going to be a pro, I might as well be weird. And there's a saying, when the going gets weird, the weird go pro. And I was just entertaining myself, And I decided that my training bike, fixies were like a big deal at that time in single speeds. And I would do 50, 60 something miles on a single speed where it's really hilly around here. And I had it geared pretty fast. What I did is I rode around town and I found the steepest hill that I could probably ride on a route. And then on my bike with all the gears, I figured out it was like, what's the most dangerous situation? And it was a traffic intersection, where I would fall off my bike. And so that I needed gearing to survive that. And it was so it wasn't the steepest hill. It was this hill that was kind of from a start. There was a possibility I was going to have a red light. And if I got stuck there and then had to go and then gain speed and then go up this hill, what was the bare minimum that I could get up that hill with? And that ended up with a gearing it was happy at like 18 miles per hour maybe. And what I did is there's gear charts online. Let's say I was riding a 39, because we used to ride a lot of 53, 39. So I was riding a 39 front, and let's say, I'm just making this up, a 39 front, 15 rear. And you can plug that into a gear calculator, and it'll tell you how many inches of rollout that is, right? So then when I turned my other bike into a single speed, this old bike into a single speed, and I put I think a 44 or 48 on the front. Then I just plugged that into the gear chart, and it told me what I needed for the same inches of rollout. One revolution of the pedals equals this much work forward. And then it matched. And so I rode for 2 years or something on a single speed. Loved it. It was absolutely crazy. And did the MS 150, no problem. And took the hilly section through Bastrop State Park. If you all know what that is, it's really hilly on that same single speed. And I learned a lot. The value of a single speed, what it teaches you is how to pull up on the pedals to make it up hills, how to work the bike side to side to make it up over hills, how to stand and pedal, to get going and on occasion. And then also the value of coasting. And you go almost as fast, and you just, like we say in the thing, you work the uphills and cruise the downhills and just coast. At some point, it's not worth pedaling anymore. And that's a crazy thing I learned is once you get over a certain speed, you top out, so you just coast, and then you're saving your energy for the next hill. And that ended up being some of my fastest Ironman times when I trained on that bike. And the other thing is at gas stations, I could just lean against the wall and go in. Nobody's going to touch that thing. It looked like junk, although it was pretty badass. Freaking love that bike. And Kuaharas, dude. Did y'all know that Kuahara made a road bike? No, everybody thinks of Kuahara making the BMX bikes, like Redline, GT, Kuahara, Diamondback. Anyway, I had a Redline BMX bike with a GT laid-back seat post and GT extra-wide handlebars. And what was it? Oh, anyway, it was a Redline 600A. I do remember that. KKT pedals, go down memory lane. It was a sweet bike. Sugino cranks, I think. Diacomp brakes, Diacomp rims. I remember that. They were badass. And I had dice as valve caps. You could buy them like that. Okay, I'm starting to get eaten up by mosquitoes, so we're going to go inside briefly. Grab my towel. Yeah, fun's over. Mosquitoes are out. Yep, sun just went down too. Okay, so my point being is that I know what it feels like to be really strong on the bike. Pedaling and low cadence and, big, powerful quads and hamstrings and such. And I can just totally tell I'm missing it lately. And it's ironic, like most people, we're trying to get them to pedal faster, higher, faster RPMs, higher RPMs, because they're pedaling too slowly. Now, what's interesting, I remember talking with Jordan Rapp, the guy who won Ironman New York and some other, I think he won Ironman Texas, Ironman New York. And he's a engineer from, I think he went to Princeton. And I loved hearing what he had to say about biking physics. And he's the one that explained it best. When you pedal uphill, there's more resistance presented to you. You spend more time pushing down when you're going uphill. And that's why you really shouldn't take an FTP test going uphill, because you have more opportunity to put more power down. And so then your power number is going to be higher. And then when you try to match that power number on flat to rolling terrain, and you start mixing in the downhills where the terrain is running away from you instead of coming at you when you're going downhill, your power number, it's going to be harder to achieve that high power number. So you should do your FTP tests on the same type of terrain. If you have a goal of doing an Ironman and holding 250 watts of power for the entire bike ride, you should go do your FTP test to see I'm kind of doing it backwards. If you want to know what power to hold on the bike ride for an Ironman, it's like 75% of your FTP, let's say. It depends on the person and your experience level. 72 for a beginner, 80 for a pro %. And the thing is to find out what your FTP is so you can get that percentage, you should go do an FTP test on the type of terrain that the race is going to be on. And Ironman Texas, for example, here is rolling. Well, when we used to do it out in the National Forest, it was rolling. And so that's actually where you should do 20 minutes of like rolling up and down and figure out what your power is out there instead of just going uphill, because your power number will be artificially uphill. And then when you take 80% of that or 72% of that and then try to match that for 5 hours, you're going to blow up. So if you find yourself in a situation where you want to build more low end power, you're tired of spinning up everything, you're not Lance Armstrong and just EPO'd out the gills where you can just do aerobic everything. And you actually going to be more like Jan Ulrich and do power everything and then go dance at a disco to celebrate. That's an inside joke. And was it dance at a disco and eat powdered donuts? Oh, that's old school. Oh, I cracked myself up. What you do is on your training rides, and what I've been doing lately is on my training rides, I've been purposefully climbing stuff and going into a headwind and being on flat, not downhills, but, and not all the time, just like sometimes, leaving it in a little bit too big of a gear for a little bit too long. And so you're getting down into lower RPMs, like 72, you know, and some of you might be going, that's what I ride all the time. Yeah, that's bad to ride that all the time. You should be riding more like 80, you know, but practicing the low 70s to high 60s, what that does is it trains different muscle fibers. And the trick is it's training the muscle fibers that do two things. One, it's your slow twitch, which are your endurance muscle fibers. But then also think about this. What happens when you start getting tired? You start slowing down your cadence. You can look at somebody's cadence graph over the length of a long ride, and you can tell one of the ways they're getting tired, besides power going down, is their cadence starts slowing down to the point of where there's lots of coasting, which is zero, you know, cadence, because they can't turn over the pedals as fast as used to. And that's because their fast twitch fibers are worn out. And now you're switching over into low and slow. Let yourself go. Fibers. And the thing is you actually should be training those if you're doing long distance racing, because at some point you're going to start dipping into those as the race gets long and your cadence starts to slow down into the 70s. Then you should be doing some training in that area so those muscles fibers are, you know, familiar with it and strong and used to it. And the mistake is to go out and ride your regular route, even though it's hilly and stuff like that, at a cadence and spin up the hills and all that other stuff. You've basically adapted so well to that you're not working anything new and you're not pushing your body for any improvement. And if you introduce staying in a harder gear a little bit longer, you can definitely feel it. It's subtle. Don't do it too much, but you just do it subtly. You can feel it working your leg muscles more like you're at the gym and doing squats, right? And that is the muscles that when the going gets tough, those are the muscles you're going to end up needing the most, you know, to get up over that hill, to power through that headwind, and you're just trudging along when you get tired. If those muscles are nice and strong, then when you need to use them, you know, they're ready to go. And the other thing is practicing pedaling standing to get up and over hills and then go back down the hill. If you practice that in training, then on race day, you easily stand and pedal up over the hills. And that's another thing that I learned riding the fixed gear. Before I started riding, or single speed, before I started riding single speed, and I was getting numb crotch a lot because our saddles weren't as good back then. And probably had my seat too high, my nose too high too. But, you know, we had limited saddle technology back then. And I had the heavily padded long nose triathlon saddle with neoprene over the nose, but it was still, you know, just a big beam down the middle. And riding my single speed and fixed gear around a bunch, I noticed that I wasn't getting numb crotch on my long rides anymore. And I was like, oh, I wonder what's going on. And it turns out it was because I was having to stand and pedal on occasion because of the gearing, you know, I didn't have any low gearing. So on occasion I was standing to get up and over stuff. It was letting blood flow get back to my specials bits. And because there wasn't any more pressure on it. And then I realized that one of the ways to make a long ride a whole lot easier is a combination of doing these two things at the same time and going faster in an Ironman is as you crest a hill, stand and pedal to gain speed, because you can be in a big gear as you go up and over the top and start going downhill. Stand and pedal as you start going downhill. You can be in that. I learned how to do this in arrow position. In the arrow position with your elbows on the elbow pads, you can actually keep your front end low and then lift your ass up off the saddle and pedal like you're standing. And it lifts your crotch off the saddle. And so you do that almost with every decent hill to gain speed going down. And then the next thing you know, you've done a 5-hour ride, you've done your Ironman ride, and your crotch never got bothered because you were lifting it up off the saddle just a little bit. But then you're also getting this benefit of gaining extra speed on the downhill and then coasting and then getting some break and recovery on the way down. So it's like a double effect that ends up benefiting you. So the big reason that I'm doing this is if I do the Gravel Locos 150, while I'm out doing my training rides, I'm thinking about it a lot. And I'm like, man, 150 miles when it's 50-50 gravel is almost, I wouldn't call it like doing 200 miles, but, like on a road bike. But I'd say it might be kind of like doing 200 miles. I'd say it's more like doing like 180 miles, 180. And plus the bikes are slower, than a gravel bike. So the gravel's slowing you down. The bikes themselves are a little bit slower, gravel bikes. So, it's kind of, maybe it is. Well, let's say it's like doing 180 miles, right? And so I'm like, that's my next race. It's less than a month, or it's a month away. And I need to be doing my training rides where, and it's hilly-ish. It's about like around here. I think a little bit more hilly than around here, but not much. And I live where it's rolling. And a smart thing to be doing, along with standing and pedaling to go up and over the hilltops to gain speed on the downhill, and then coast and use that as recovery to practice that. So, how many of those am I going to get during the ride? You need to practice so that you can do however many it is. So for training, like you're doing an Ironman, you find out that there's 5 big hills, right? So you train so that you can do 5 big hills. You go out and do your bike ride, your training ride, but mix in 6 just so that you're safe. 6 big hills, the equivalent. You can ride the same hill over and over again. That's the equivalent of the hill that's going to be on your race course. And then park your bike and then do your brick run off of that. And then that's what it's going to feel like. But you need to be able to do those 5, let's say they're hills of 200 feet climb each, right? 300 feet, I don't know, whatever. That doesn't seem like much of a hill to some people, but to some people it is. So you climb a 300-foot climb 5-6 times, because that's what's going to be on the race course, and feel like what that impact has on you. And if you have trouble doing that in a 3-hour ride, how are you going to do that, like on a 50-mile ride? How are you going to do that on a 112-mile ride, right? So you practice those hills, and then you go back and you look at your power graph and see what power you put out climbing those hills, and we're still able to run. And then on race day, you don't go over that power. You climb those hills at 200. I remember for me, hill climbing was like at 270 watts. Because you do got to get over that hill, and it depends on your weight, you got to put down extra power. But I can climb hills at 270 watts, and then, hill after hill after hill after hill after hill, and then I'm fine to run off of that, theoretically. And if I do hills at 270 watts, then I'm not burning too many matches. I don't go into a lactic burn so bad that my legs are blown out. Now, if I go over 270 watts, start getting to 300 watts, climbing hills, whatever, then that's really bad. And so I would watch the power meter, and as soon as I start hitting 270, 280, I would be like, oh, that's it. That's all I got. And it's really smart because other people are blowing by me and, trying to beat me up the hill or whatever during the race. And then after a while, I pass them because on the 6th hill, they can't do that anymore. Or on the run, they've toasted their legs climbing those hills too hard. Now, the thing is, the hills around here and the hills maybe where you live or on your regular training court, you don't have massive hills, right? And you can't do, big climbing and stuff like that to practice and be stronger on race day with these big slow twitch muscles that you're going to end up using anyway as your cadence slows down. So what you do is you can create artificially harder, bigger hills by using the hills that you've already got and trying to climb them in the wrong gear. 1 gear harder than what you usually do. And the thing is you don't try to, and what that does is that simulates like you're climbing up a steeper hill than the hill that you've got for longer, because it takes longer to climb up in the wrong gear. And what's cool is it doesn't overwork your nervous system. You're doing a lower cadence. It's not stressful because you're doing just barely the wrong gear, right? And you don't try to climb it at the same speed. All you're doing is just a lower RPM. You don't have to push like a whole bunch harder because, like Jordan Rapp said, the hill's already presenting you with more resistance, and being in the wrong gear presents you with a little bit more resistance. And so people will make the mistake of pushing in a bigger gear and then trying to match the RPM that they were doing before when they were spinning, but in a harder gear. And that ends up blowing up your legs. That's not the point. You want to practice a slower turnover in slightly the wrong gear and heavier gear. And then what that does is it gently overworks your leg muscles at a lower RPM. And you can very finely, subtly, and with elegance, like dose yourself with a little bit more resistance that's working those leg muscles so that they're tougher on race day. So I started doing that maybe 2 weeks ago, and it's working. I feel like I'm reviving my tougher, slower moving leg muscles that allow me to power up hills in a bigger gear. And as you do it more, you have more faith in it. And what's really cool is it doesn't raise your heart rate as much, and it doesn't raise your respiration rate as much. You're not breathing as heavily as if you were spinning like really fast, which is an oxygen intensive kind of thing, you know. The lower RPM is more, if you don't push too hard, then it's more of a fat burning kind of just slow build, you know. It's like a coal fire instead of a flame fire. It's definitely using gas, or it's definitely using diesel instead of gas. So anyway, speaking of all that and fuel, I am hungry and I'm going to eat something. And that's been your dose of random training knowledge. Be right back. Okay, I'm at the pool. I'm between sets. A minute 30 between 850 yards. And swimming has just turned into meditation. This is really cool. By trying to keep my heart rate in zone 2 as the set gets longer, I'm focusing on that and calming breathing and getting like a nice efficient stroke at a low heart rate. All right, I gotta go. I got another set to do. All right, this is crazy. This is so cool. That was another set of 800. And what I've noticed is, I noticed this over the past few swims, this is my third swim, that when you're focusing on heart rate, the yards just fly by. And that is so nice. You don't like go, oh, I'm only 300 yards in. And if you know, like it starts getting hard, well, you look at your heart rate, bring it back down. Because if you stay in zone 2, it's easy, right? So you have this confidence that it's going to be easy. It's really cool. Sip of fuel. That was 4th set. And wow. Okay. What I've noticed is like 130 to 132 is the top end of really what I want to be swimming for zone 2. And then, you know, over the course of the set, it starts getting up there. And then when it hits that and maybe starts going to 132, 133, I'm like, okay, back off, relax, and let your heart rate come back down a little bit. Focus on like breathing out through your nose, just slower turnover, more glide, and focusing on that instead of yardage. You know, you just check on the yardage, which the goggles show you, but then you know you're doing like zone 2 perfectly. Oh, it's so great. Last set, here we go. All right, all done. That was about another 850 yards. The pool's a weird length. It's 28.1 yards. It's not even meters. Anyway. So 4,158 yards in just under an hour. So probably like a 126, 127 pace for 100 yards. And another set where I remembered all of a sudden, oh yeah, I need to check to see how far I've gone. And then I'd gone farther and longer than what I'd thought, because I was just kind of like in this meditative state with the swimming. And then what I noticed on this one, I was swimming with a pool boy. And pool boy, because you're not using your legs, but it floats you and puts you in good form, it doesn't drive your heart rate up as much. So you swim the same speed or faster at a lower heart rate. So I'm like, oh, my heart rate's only in the mid 120s, low to mid 120s. I need to go harder. And I know I can, because 130 is kind of more my target for zone 2 today. Everything depends. And so So then I picked up the pace a little bit. So like the heart rate like corrected my effort. And then another thing is, I started swimming today. I was a little bit more sore than I wanted to be. And last swim, if you remember, I did 57 minutes easy and then 3 minutes hard. And I'm like, okay, what I'm going to do is 58 minutes easy today, 58 minutes easy, and then only 2 minutes hard. I'm going to drop it down to 2 minutes at the very end hard. And that felt better, and that's the beauty of doing repeated workouts, consistent. You just repeat the same thing over and over again, and you learn to correct yourself based on what it does. It's hard to improve unless you measure, right? And by doing that, I was like, okay, so now the swim on Friday, I'll see how sore I am and see if the 2 minutes at the very end is like a more appropriate, and the target of around 130 heart rate is appropriate, because the other big goal is consistency and volume. You need to be able to get in, that's 4,000 yards, per swim plus. So that's actually your real target. And if you go too hard, then you burn up, and then you don't have the energy to go swim. Your volume drops and you burn out. And then if you don't go hard enough, well, then it's a waste of your time. All right, I need to get in the shower, and we'll pick back up here in a second. Man, that was cool. That's so cool. Meditative swimming. Be right back. All right, leaving the pool Wednesday morning. My swim was so awesome. During the swim, the impact of being able to watch heart rate, that I started recording between sets. And to be able to do that just shows like the happiness and the control over your effort that you're able to do. So let's go ahead and listen to that. Let's go back in time. And here we go. All right, let's load stuff into the truck. I'm back. It started misting. So this morning's swim was the first morning swim this spring, where I didn't need a jacket out on the deck to feel comfortable getting into the water. I'm freezing my ass off. I guess all this stuff can just go in here. Okay. And you too. Where's my swim cap? Don't want to lose my swim cap. There we go. Oh, you can all go right there. I'm organizing stuff, milk crates in the back of my pickup truck. Okay, I'm at the point where I need to charge my goggles though. It is so nice to go to the pool where just t-shirt, shorts, and flip-flop. Leaving the pool, I have this method where I leave the pool if it's humid with no shirt on, but shorts and flip-flop, so to try to cool down and also let my antiperspirant deodorant congeal in my armpits without getting on my shirt. So I give it a minute. And by the time I load everything in my car, then I put a shirt on, which will happen here in just a second. I'm almost ready. It's so nice that it's warm enough that I don't have to think about extra clothing. That's like freedom of the mind. One less thing to worry about. You can think about other things. Real quick on the green smoothie and the Ezekiel cereal. Man, that stuff is working. It's so weird. The fiber, fills you up. So you're kind of hungry, because you're at a calorie deficit. And, the experts will tell you to lose weight, you do need to be you're going to be a little bit uncomfortable. If you're not a little bit uncomfortable, then you're probably not losing weight. And then, but you're kind of hungry, but you're full at the same time. Like you try to eat and you're like, nah, ain't happening. And I think that's what happens with fiber. And yeah, I think I can grab the rest of this stuff here in a second. Let's put on the work shirt. I've been getting away at work with wearing a V-neck t-shirt that's just plain. It's a V-neck, It's executive. It's fancy. A round collar shirt would be bad. Crew collar. But a V-neck, that's all right. That's professional. That's what I'm going for. All right, gonna throw the truck. It's misty and slick, so I'm gonna throw the truck in all-wheel drive. I'm on this... Hello. All right. The recording got cut off as I was driving phone connected to my car, and then it just blew up the recording. Well, actually, it just ended it, and then there was nothing. The life of podcasting. So I might have mentioned with the green smoothie is that you feel full. You're a little bit hungry, but at the same time, you're full. It's weird. It's this weird sensation, to have to lose weight, you have to have a calorie deficit. So that is going to make you feel a little bit hungry, but it's how you deal with the hunger. That's one thing, or the thing. And what helps you deal with the hunger is to be full. You're hungry, yet your stomach's full, so that when you do try to eat more, you just like stop. You're like, ugh. And that's kind of how Ozempic and those drugs work, where it sends the hormone through your body that makes you feel like you're already full, and then you just don't eat as much, and then boom, you lose weight. So it's kind of similar to that. You can just do it with a green smoothie. I made the smoothie this morning in probably about 3 minutes, I think. I made it as I was doing other stuff, and that was nice. And I'm on my way to do a lunch run, which I'm going to do with River. I really like my new run route. I'm looking forward to actually running it. That's a big key with training. And then back to the swim. Oh man, dude, I showed my goggles to some people at work, some young guys that they called them the Tony Stark goggles. They were like, whoa, dude, holy crap. So like an Ironman, that's a fitting thing. Yeah. When he's in the suit, all the stuff that he sees. Anyway, so swimming along in the zone 2, I would push the pace if I felt like I was going too slow, because I kind of figured out, like a 130 heart rate was nice. And so if I wasn't going 130, I could go harder and I'd be okay. See, that's the thing, is when you're not sure, then you're not sure what it adds stress, and then you don't have this confidence and should I go faster? Should I go harder? And you don't really know. But with heart rate, you're getting a reflection of how the work is affecting your body. And that's what you're training. You're not training the pool, you're training your body, right? I always say that. You're not training the stopwatch, you're training your body. Got to remember. And that's a Zen thing too. Don't worry about other people and what they're doing. Worry about yourself and make sure you're doing the right thing that's right for you. We get so caught up in others, and others could be the watch, the time or something. Anyway, I'm swimming along, and I'm like, I noticed with the pull buoy that I was doing, it was, my heart rate was lower to swim faster because it helps elevate your legs. And also you're not kicking, so you're not using as much body work, so your heart rate doesn't go up as high. And so I'm like, I could probably swim a little bit harder. And then now I'm getting a little bit better workout with my arms, because now instead of swimming, I was naturally swimming, like 125, and I could go a little bit harder and then swim like 130. And then, like I was saying, I have this confidence. I know that if I swim 130, I'll still be fine, right? I've eliminated this worry of, is this too hard? No, I know it's not too hard, because I'm watching the metric of like how it's affecting my body. I know I could do this all day long. I could do 130 all day. When I did the 100-mile marathon, I set an alarm on my watch to not let my heart rate, to alert me if my heart rate went over like 128 or something like that. And basically I averaged 122 or something like that heart rate. And that's the only way I finished that race, was to do like a really low heart rate. So that way I had energy in reserve whenever when it started getting hard. So then the other one was, I was noticing I did 2 sets without the pull buoy, and then my heart rate was a little bit higher, and it would much easier get above 130 and start climbing up into like 132, 133, 134, 135 if I wasn't careful. But then immediately I'm like, just back off, dude. Back off and swim your 132 is probably the top end of what you should be doing. So 130 to 132, right? And then now check this out. Then I had confidence, that I know I'm in zone 2 and then whatever. And then, like I said, the last 2 minutes I went hard to burn it in. And now check this out. My numbers were almost as good as the best numbers I've ever done. And they're excellent numbers. But it was with no stress. That's what's so crazy. Just absolutely zero stress. I swam 4,158 yards in 59 minutes and something seconds. So I swam a 126 pace. Dude, a 126 pace. If that was an Ironman swim, a 126 pace is like an hour and 30 seconds or something like that. Right? And I was swimming zone 2, just chilling and relaxing and moderating my effort based on what the heart rate was telling me live. So now that I know that I can swim that fast with that heart rate, right? Then think about it. You could go do an Ironman and say with these goggles and have the heart rate showing, and then just say, stay in zone 2, don't go above 132, but, allow for a few extra beats high, because of the anxiety and race nerves and stuff like that. What you do is you know what your heart rate is usually before you start swimming. I have 2 cups of coffee before I get to the pool, so my heart rate's in the 90s, right? So that's my baseline, is 90s. And then when you put on the goggles, it tells you what your heart rate is before you even get started. So let's say it was 90s, but on race day, my heart rate's like 110. And I'm like, oh, yeah, well, that's race nerves and excitement, So maybe add a couple points, 10 points to my swim heart rate, my target heart rate during the swim at first until I settle in. And then when you start swimming, mass start or however they do it at that race, you do, my heart rate's 140, right? 150. And you're just like, dude, just relax, be calm. You're going too hard, right? And now you're going too hard because you have heart rate. You're like, I'm going too hard, just chill. Just like with a marathon, if you have pace showing on your watch, people start off the marathon too fast all the time because everybody around them is going the same speed, so it feels like you're not going anywhere. So everybody starts running faster and faster. and people find out all the time that they ran the first mile, 2 miles at like a full minute per mile faster than what they do in training. And they're roasted. They're like, oh crap, I screwed up, right? So at the start of the swim, you can be like, oh, my heart rate's high. Let it come down. Let's swim. Let's be easy. And then use it as a meditative kind of device to calm down and not get overly worked up in the swim. And then you would have just a great bike after that and a great run. I was joking at work that I'm really tempted to run with the goggles on like at night. So I don't get harassed by somebody, like, what the hell's wrong with you, And also it's a little bit difficult to see through these goggles. To do the lens head-up display, the goggles are shaped kind of. But then somebody said, oh, what do you care, whatever. And then I thought, oh, no, dude, just do it on a treadmill. I could run with the goggles on the treadmill and see what an impact having live heart rate up in your line of vision, does for your behavior, and see if it has a calming effect. I've done stuff like that before, and all you do is you just throw away that workout. You pretend like you're swimming or something, but then don't have it log a swim, Just because you log something or record something or use something doesn't mean it has to be, saved. It can just be, you just throw it away. And then on your watch, you record your run. Anyway, I'm almost at the house. It's overcast. It's warm. It's humid. So I think I might throw River in the pool before we get going. So he does his lap already cooled down and doesn't get overheated in this humidity. And then I'll run a lap in reverse. I did that last run and really liked it. And it did not seem to bother my mad calf from what I recall. The problem is, I think I mentioned this, when I run uphill, if I run on a left downward sloping road, it messes up my right calf. I know it sounds so bizarre. It's complicated. But the thing is, especially when I first start off running, but then after I've been running a long time, everything kind of loosens up and whatever, and I'm calm and I've settled in. Then I can do this thing where I can run on left sloping roads for a distance, and kind of compensate. And I'm not so stiff that I can be loose and like compensate around it, and then it doesn't bother me so bad. But what makes it worse is uphill, because that really accentuates the work that you're putting into that left sloping road. And that definitely strains my calf if I'm not careful. And so I've had anxiety and aversion from running this loop this certain way because of that sloping uphill coming the other way. But now I'm kind of thinking, man, because I put it at the very end, it doesn't seem as bad, because like I said, I'm all loosened up, and maybe it's something I can start doing on the regular. I'm kind of hoping for that, because it's not that section of trail of sidewalk goes through the woods, and that green like tree tunnel is so psychologically like good therapy. You feel like you're in the woods, and it's such a great, that's why you go run, and like the alternative is I'm running out on this open road again. That's just kind of like it's stressful. There's too many cars. It's just too much. I'm just not a big fan of it. So we'll see. Okay, that's it. I'll be right back. Oh, shit. That run sucked, but it didn't exactly suck. Like, every run is awesome, man. If you can get out and run, always count your blessings, because I've been injured where I can't run, and then worse. I was in a wheelchair as a kid for a little while. Got run over by a car. Anyway, back before there was ADA, American Disabilities Act, and I was going to elementary school in a wheelchair in a 2-story elementary school with no handicap ramps or anything, because it was 1980, and it was an old school in Birmingham, Alabama. Had to have friends carry me up the stairs. Anyway, immediately, right from the beginning, my legs hurt. And although my pace was good, so I had good energy, but my legs weren't recovered yet, and I need to sit down and look. I'm not going to do it right now. But did I wait like 2 days, or did I wait a day and a half? And it does kind of matter. Or was it a day? Yeah, a day and a quarter, I think. If I ran yesterday morning, this is only today lunch. That's not 2 days or a day and a half. I can't remember if I ran yesterday morning or not. I feel like I did. So this was running too soon, I think. So my pace was good. It was one of my better paces, but my legs just hurt. And then I was having to stop because my legs hurt. And then I was running out of breath a little bit. Now, it's the hottest that it's been, but you don't make the mistake of attributing it to heat and humidity, because it happened right from the beginning. I didn't have time to deal with the heat yet. And I get hot on rides and stuff. It's just been the hottest run. So I did 1 lap with River. I had to walk tons of it because my legs just hurt, and then started off on my second lap and then just turned around and came back. So I did 3 miles and then a quarter mile out and back. 3/4 of a mile total out and back to add to that. So almost 4 miles trying to run. And I just said, you know what, I'm done. Which is a nice thing about looping, is you can quit a whole lot easier and be closer to your house. That's the thing about treadmills that's awesome. And I thought, and you never know, Emily may want to go bike tonight. And that's a family priority for me. And yep, she called when I was trying to cool down a minute ago. And dude, I'm dying in the heat, dude. It's so hot. I'll have to look at the humidity, the heat index. I'll do that in a little bit. We have times here where the heat index is over 120 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's as hot as Death Valley, because it'll be like 95 degrees, let's say, but then seriously like 80% humidity or something. And so the heat index, what it feels like, is like 120. A lot of people train here in Texas, this part of Texas near the Woodlands, for Hawaii, for Kona, because it's so hot here. Friend of the show, Jocelyn McCauley, says it's actually hotter here. Maybe Angela Nath too, I don't know. Holly Lawrence announced on Instagram that she's pregnant. And I told her my joke that pregnancy is the greatest or worst sports injury, because you do it from quote unquote sports, and it is great. And then having a kid is great too. And then, but like an injury, it takes you out, and for like a year plus while you're trying to get your life back in order after popping out a kid. And for the guy side, like trying to freaking figure out what life's changing, and then. Like Emily worked night shift, I worked day shift, and then I would stay up all night watching the baby when Kai was a baby. And then that went on for months and maybe a year or two. And man, I was still trying to catch my breath. And I didn't even run 6 miles, man. I only ran 3 1/4. Man, that was brutal. I was thinking like, this may be my last lunch run for a long time until the fall, because it's too hot. I have to wait till early morning or late evening. And then, so there's an episode of South Park where she said, she was showing the kids a sex ed film of STDs, and they're all like, oh, gross, you know. And then she said, and then the worst sexually transmitted disease of them all. And you're waiting for like AIDS or something. And pregnancy. And then showed a baby coming out of like a horse or a cow or something like that. They didn't show it coming out of a human. And then the kids just lose it. Like they're like, ugh. And that's where I get that thing from the worst sports injury of them all, pregnancy. Oh, man. Okay, I'm almost cooled down. My mom and dad, mostly my mom, had this great way of making sure that my brother and I didn't get somebody pregnant as much as we could try too early. By any time that we were out to eat or out in public, but usually we were out to eat, and there was a young couple with a screaming baby, they would be like, and it was like just horrifying, you know, just to be in the same room, the dining room with us, you know. And my mom would go, so what do you think of that? We'd be like, that sucks. They're like, yeah, that's what happens. How old do you think they are? And we're like, I don't know, like 20, 22. Yeah. Take note. Like that. It's like, oh, man. So that's how pregnancy can be a sexually transmitted disease, because it definitely, when we got pregnant, it was planned and we wanted a baby and we were ready for it. And we found ourselves in that very lucky position. So that can go off on tangents. Anyway, I'm just kind of rambling here. The run. So the smart thing, the lesson I learned always, well, the thing I know that I want to pass on to y'all is, you're struggling, dude, cut it short. And as time goes on, you learn more and more signs of you're struggling. You got to think like, is it worth it? You know, what could you be doing instead? And look for patterns. Do stuff that's predictable. You know, it's the same run route. So I know from doing the same run route that I should be able to run, you know, this whatever pace. And then when I can't, then I start going, okay, what did I do differently? I had a little bit extra caffeine this morning. You know, was that driving up my heart rate and making me whatever? I noticed when I peed, it was a little bit more yellow than usual. So was it dehydration? And I keep thinking these excuses or these factors. River's scratching his neck. But then I just keep going back to, my legs just freaking hurt, you know? And I'm like, man, it's probably just ran 6 miles and then turned around and didn't wait long enough to run 6 miles again. Plus, on top of biking, heavy gear, like what we've been talking about. All right, that's enough of that. I'm going to get off the mic. There was something else I wanted to talk about. Can't remember what it is. I'll get to it in a minute. Out, bang. Okay, finishing a 9-mile zone 2 run. We're going to hear it tick over here. I got 4 100ths of a mile to go, but who's counting, right? Totally zone 2. Just feel like I could run forever. And that's part of what zone 2 does for you. And then allows you to get, there you go, more miles in. I always run a little bit extra because on occasion, when it uploads, something gets wonky and it doesn't record. There we go. I'm gonna stop there. So I did the first 3 miles with River. Well, let's back up. Yesterday I biked 4 hours, the first hour and a half with Emily. So like 25 miles pulling her, which is an awesome workout. I keep thinking, dude, this is a really cool training trick. I know Laird Hamilton used to do that, pull his kids or a wagon or ride a bike with really heavy wheels on it to make it harder. And then you can make more out of the roads and the terrain that you got. Really, really enjoyed that. Did a mix of off-road with her, showed her. It's on Instagram. We went down to the Navasota River where it's flooding, rode through a park, long park, on gravel and dirt. And she's on a full suspension giant mountain bike with off-road tires and everything, sitting upright. But on the downhills, actually, she can keep up with me because she's dropped off me a little bit and then going down. And just having the time of her life is so freaking great. And then took yesterday afternoon off, looking at bikes online, future gravel bikes, seeing what we can do. And then registering for gravel locos. And then today was planning on just running 6 because I've been having trouble running with my legs feeling like crap, all beat up. And even though I biked 4 hours yesterday, I ran 3 with River. I was about halfway through it, the first 3 miles. And I was like, man, my legs feel really good. I might be able to run longer. And I was thinking more like 7. And then I dropped River off because it's difficult to run with him because he just constantly stops and you don't get in a good run workout. But I need to run him. Psychologically, it's really good for him and us. He doesn't tear up the house as much. And then I set back out after 3 miles back at the house. I set back out to run another 3 plus some, so like maybe 7. And then I was like, dude, I'm going to do 9. And so I made fuel and water for 9 just in case I felt like it. And did 9, like no problem. It's kind of slow, but I was in my 125 kind of heart rate range. Just jogging easy, barely needed to walk anything or take breaks. And it's so cool, trying to piece together, like what's different. There's a little bit of breeze over here. What's different is I think swimming with heart rate is retraining me to slow down, and then going a little bit slower, truly doing zone 2, gives you more energy. And also the green smoothies don't hurt either. A little bit of kale and blueberries and carrots mixed in. And then you get in the volume, but you're not as worn out. And then you feel like there's a calming effect that's really cool. And confidence, I think I've talked about that. And then you're not as worn out, and then you can go do more. And that is actually what's the key that makes you a great endurance athlete, is to be able to go do more. The person who trains the most volume ends up getting faster, and then the next thing you know, you're getting in the volume because you're faster in the same amount of time as somebody that was trying too hard. And then like the marathoner that runs a 6-minute mile can get his workout and volume done faster than somebody that runs a 10-minute mile. And it's a compounding effect. It's really cool. So anyway, I ran 9 miles like it was nothing, like it was super chill. And that got me thinking, I'm going to run to the grocery store. I got to get some Gorilla Glue and some, what's the other stuff? Liquid IV. I like using that stuff. And then I use it for electrolyte, and I get the one with caffeine in it. And I mix it in with my fuel, just a touch of caffeine. It's the pineapple flavored one, and with green and yellow on the box. And then I'm thinking about bike riding this afternoon and getting a little bit more volume, because I definitely need a bike ride. It's been kind of like freaking me out when I realized, I was like, dude, 150-mile bike ride. And I swear it took me because it's off-road, could have easily taken me 10 hours last year. I don't remember. I'm going to have to go look at my race result, and then I need to be like, dude, that is a long, long endurance ride. And so I need to have my my bike riding volume at a place where I feel happy with that. And all right, I need a running joke on the show. We need to acknowledge it. This is the end of the show, and we'll finish the show when we come right back. You guys, I keep adding stuff on. It's so funny. Anyway, yeah, this is the end of the show, but I'll be right back. Okay, bye. All right. Thanks, everybody, for sticking with us through the show. Don't forget that you can support Zen and the Art of Endurance by going to our Patreon. It's patreon.com/Zentry. And also you can get coaching from yours truly. We coach through Training Peaks, which is the industry standard from everybody from the beginner all the way up to Olympians and top Ironman pros. I've been coaching for about 15 years. Had some really great We've had a lot of really great results with a lot of people. And I can train you on how to go really long and enjoy it and get a whole lot faster along the way. And I think that's about it. Oh yeah, the MS-150 thing. Where I work, somebody handed the company, I'll call it, a VIP pass to the MS-150. And at first I thought it was, the MS-150 is ending, the Texas MS-150 is ending here in town at our football field for Texas A&M. And I've actually done the MS-150 before. And so when I was given this VIP pass, I thought maybe it was like to get into the MS-150 for free as a VIP. And I was like, man, dude, with 1 day's notice, because it's happening this weekend, I was like, man, that's probably not going to happen. I mean, I could do it, but I've already got my weekend planned out with other things. And then I found out it really wasn't for the MS-150. It costs a lot of money to get in the MS-150. You need to raise money for MS. And so I think you need like $400. You can pay it yourself, just get in. But this wasn't going to get me or anybody in for free. But what I did is on my way home from work that day, this was yesterday, I took the VIP pass to my local bike shop, because bike shops are going to be busy helping people out with the MS-150. And I said to the manager, hey, do you have anybody that might want a pass to the VIP areas of the MS-150? And he goes, you bet, I've got a bunch. I was like, all right, here you go. So I gave it to him for free. And then he can turn around and give it to whoever he feels is going to make best use of it. And that felt great. All right, I think this is the end of the show for real. Stay tuned for the upcoming episodes, training for Gravel Locos. We'll do a review of Ironman Texas. We'll do a review of the Garmin 840. And that computer's been out for a while, but like how I'm using it, and recommend that you use it for your best results for long distance training. And then also how the power meters are coming along. If we have them yet, then they'll be on the show. But that might be 2 shows from now, because again, they're back ordered about 30 days because they're so good. They're in high demand. Anyway, that's it. Everybody stay safe out there. Work the uphills, cruise the downhills, and keep the rubber side down. Out.